Hey, happy Halloween, everybody. Yes, it's trick or treat night, and everybody got to give me their candy because I'm too old to go trick or treating myself. Matter of fact, someone looking like me walking around my neighborhood trying to get candy at night is probably not a good idea, as a lot of children are going to be scared half to death of me. Although I was thinking about this one year, I actually thought about this. If I paid each kid to go out and trick or treat for me, and I gave them like half the candy and maybe like $5 or something, because back in my day, I rather the money than the candy. So if I really wanted some cheap candy, I figured that'd be a great way to have a workforce, just kind of put them on a 1099 form and do them as a subcontractor and just hire the kids to go get candy for me at a cheap rate. Makes sense, right? No? Well, you guys enthused tonight. Well, anyways,
I think I just heard Steve talking about becoming a Halloween candy pimp.
Yeah. Hey, why not, man? A good way to become a diabetic. Although I'm not a fan of sugar, but I do like candy, but I don't eat much of it. I've been trying to eliminate sugars, trying to eliminate carbohydrates, pretty much. Well, not eliminate, but tone down the carbohydrates, especially breads and things of that nature. Refined sugar, but eating a lot more protein. Got to build up the muscle. Yeah.
Steve, how's it going in the blood of Christ aged urine therapy?
Okay. I haven't got in yet. I haven't said yes yet. Okay, but I have talked to the guy that invited me to it. He wants me to invite this guy, and you can go look at the group, and I don't remember his name, but one of the guys that actually advocates for this, and he wants me to invite him on the Non Sequitur show. And I brought this up to Kyle the other day, and I said, "Hey, Kyle, I know a guy that drinks aged urine," and Kyle's like, "Why does that not even faze me any longer?" I'm like, "Because we've been doing this for too long." But we're going to try to get him on to December. Just say yes. But I haven't. Do I want to be in a group about that? It just looks weird. I don't know.
Hey, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, he'd be a guest on your show. You'd have him on separate, right?
Well, yeah, but if I jump into that group, I feel like I'm like people are going to say, "Why is Steve in a group about drinking his own piss?" Oops, let me fix this. My green screen's way off.
I mean, hey, Steve, you're in so many groups as is. Like
I got like 50 that I'm in.
I
got kicked out one the other day though. What?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said fuck.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you can't say fuck. Oh, whoops. Am I getting kicked off?
You're not in a group.
What
I have to fix this green screen. It's not. It's just this color of the shirt is messing up my green screen. See, because it thinks it's green.
The two people I know here are Steve and Brian.
You don't know everybody?
Nope, I don't know Brendan.
We got Brandon, we got Brian, we got Christopher, and we got Eric.
Well, I know the first Brian, not the second Brian.
Usman, do you want to go by Usman or do you want to go by Eric?
I go by Eric. As long as you can pronounce Usman. I go by that as well.
Usman.
Hey, Usman. First time meeting you. How you doing?
Doing all right, are you?
So you think I should join that group?
Yes.
Use an alternate account. But go ahead.
Alternate account.
Do you know about the group, Steve, where they drink turpentine? This is not a joke.
Yeah, no, we're having that guy on.
Oh, really? Wow, that'll be
something.
The turpentine drinker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're trying to get him on.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, how bizarre is that? I don't know how these people don't die.
I'm of the opinion the nastier of a person you are, the more likely you are to live. And I base that on my great grandmother because she was convinced that she was a God's gift to humanity, that she was a saint, that she was perfect, and that no matter how much she beat another person, it didn't matter. She was great, and she lived to be like 100.
Yeah, mean people live longer. I think it's something genetic. Must be a holiday tonight.
I'm pretty sure Hitler would still be alive if he hadn't killed himself.
Could be. He would probably live to his 200, right?
At least.
Yeah, I usually have like 4 times the amount of people watching, but it is holiday, so it's cool. And Eric, I'm going to have a little conversation with you in a second if you guys don't mind. He had some questions to ask me, and I was more than happy to answer his questions. But I got some questions in the live chat already. And yeah, Danny Glass is the guy's name. And he looks like death warmed over, and he actually looked like he used to be in good shape. I don't know what the hell happened. Oh, yeah, he drank turpentine. I don't know why these people think it's a good idea, and I sure the hell don't know how they don't get into kidney failure. But somebody says, Steve was in the Navy. I like his take on the Philadelphia experiment. Sure, it never happened. There was experiments using degaussing. These are big coils, and what they do is they degauss the hull of the ship so it's not magnetized, so it helps resist having mines attracted to it. Those are real things, and we have degaussing coils on ship, but it never made a ship invisible and never made it impenetrable to radar. The whole phasing out of existence never happened. That experiment, to me, I believe, never happened. And if it did happen, it certainly didn't have any effects like the movie. You know, it may, at the very least, it might have affected radar, but that's just because of electromagnetic, you know.
Yeah, I always wondered about that experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the Montauk project? I don't remember what that one is. So, is time travel? Something about time travel? Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yes.
One, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, Eric.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, quick question actually, because my brother wanted to actually. I'm not sure if this is like possible to watch, like for him to watch live as well, without necessarily participating. But
You're gonna have the link. I mean, the link. You want the link?
yeah, sure. I can shoot that over to him.
Yeah.
So he's not. I don't know. Probably after talking to him for about 5 minutes, you'll think he's like a conspiracy theorist. So he probably wouldn't fit too well into the conversation.
Okay, I give you the link.
Okay, I send that over to him here. There we go. All right, appreciate that. So, so the main reason I wanted to actually come on and kind of have a conversation with you is, I mean, I know we've kind of had a little bit of a history, and then I kind of feel like we kind of got off to a bad start just because I don't know if like the way I communicated on, especially on Google Plus, just came off abrasive kind of thing. So, but I did want to say, I mean, I definitely do appreciate you taking the time to actually have these discussions and actually talking to me about it and allowing me to come on. So
no worries. I'm glad. I wanted to have more productive conversations. I mean, for the last year or whatever it's been, you know, I don't mind being challenged. I like being challenged, but if people challenge me, I need to have evidence. They need to come out to me with something. And I don't mean to be disrespectful on this, but I see a lot of people, a lot of atheists come with me the same parroting stuff. They just glean off some YouTube video. They assert it because they've been told this so many times and times again that it must be true. But when you ask them for any evidence of why they think that position is the case, I get nothing ever. And if it is, it's an appeal to dictionary. And I've told people, and I put it on Twitter and I put it on my own Facebook, if somebody's going to argue me from a dictionary, I'm already going to be done with the conversation. Right? It's just not, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but in general, anybody that's going to argue, but I have a dictionary, I'm not going to reduce myself to that level of conversation. Right?
Right.
Yeah, Lucifer wants the link. Of course, on Halloween, Lucifer wants the link.
So I guess at least kind of like with that, because I know we kind of went back and forth about it earlier. I didn't know if you wanted to kind of like at least finish that part of the conversation up as far as definition wise and
your choice, man. Oh shit! I just sent Lucifer the wrong link. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, so I guess my viewpoint on it was more of, I guess the way that I approach conversation is more because I don't get to talk to a lot of people, at least on with your educational background. I talk to like everyday people that don't really research this, that don't really see this as a hobby or as an interest. It just comes up in a conversation and we kind of go back and forth and it kind of stops there kind of situation. Mm-hmm. So I kind of try to at least talk to them in that kind of a level instead of a philosophical level like you would. And at least for me, it feels like it's more effective for me, at least with that conversation with that individual. But then again, I don't, like I said, talk to people that kind of do this more regularly, like you guys would.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, just for the record, people know this. I have no formal education in philosophy of any kind. The only course I even took in college, even remote related, was called Contemporary Rhetoric, Critical Thinking in Contemporary Rhetoric, which is a philosophical course. But other than that, that's the only course I ever took in college. Everything I learned about philosophy, I've learned on my own in the last 4 years. So I have no formal education in philosophy. However, I learned it to the point where people that do have formal educations at least don't think I'm an idiot in it. And that's my goal. They don't have to think I'm exceptionally brilliant at it, but they don't think of me as an idiot on it. So that's good.
So I guess I think where we kind of left off was where we were discussing at least the way I was trying to make a point of what makes one definition better than the other. I get your point that yours can be more accurate or more specific to what the point that you're trying to make, but I don't know. I guess what's your viewpoint on that type of definitions versus the colloquial that I would use?
When it comes to any kind of word, okay, would you agree that in science we use specific words with specific meaning in what's called the sensu stricto meaning, which is in the narrow sense? Like when we say the word evolution, when we all know that's a change of allelic frequency or heritable traits from one generation to the next generation over time, right? That's acceptable. That's a biological definition, right? We don't say it's just change, right? Because that's too loose a definition. Same thing with the word theory. We don't use the word theory to mean guess or in a colloquial sense, right? We mean it to mean a confirmed model. Right. My argument's always been, for consistency's sake, why is it any different than in philosophy that people choose to use sensu lato definitions, which was the broad sense? Because to me, it goes into the vagueness, and also leads to some problems, some baggage, which I'll get into in a second here. Lucifer, I know you're on your other account, but can you message me on it so I can give it to you? I don't think I have a direct connect to that account. Message me on it.
What?
Or email me.
Where are you wanting?
I want to get it to Lucifer on his other account.
So what do you want me to do?
Dalek Sec. That's his other account. There you go. Oh, wait, is that it? I can just send it to him this way. All right. So anyways, I just sent it to you on G+. So that's my simple argument. Again, people don't have to abide by that. My argument's always been this: if you want to accept simplistic definitions, there's baggage that goes along with that, and I have a hard time with people that don't want to address the baggage. For example, one of the baggages, I was talking to somebody today named Sam, who I was trying to get in here. I think he's a physicist dude, but it was basically like this. Atheism and theism, would you agree, are called cognitive positions, which means they can be represented propositionally. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So theism is clearly cognitivist because the proposition at least one God exists is true or false. It's not a non-cognitive position. It's clearly a cognitive position. Atheism, whether it's a lack of belief or I believe that gods don't exist, is still a cognitive position, right? So I was trying to explain to him, but a theological non-cogs is a non-cognitivist position. So if you're going to define atheism as merely a lack of belief, then what happens to the theological non-cognitivist? Because the theological non-cognitivist is a non-cognitivist position. You cannot subsume it into an atheist position because now you have a category error. And so as somebody who likes to be trying to be precise as possible, don't always succeed, and atheists who want to be the rational, logical ones, right? They're always out there saying theists are irrational. They're logical, and I'm not agreeing with that, but that's what the atheist says. But if the atheist is actually willing to do something that is just as irrational, in my opinion, by trying to subsume a non-cognitivist position into a cognitive position, then how are they any different than what they're arguing against? There's just hypocrisy to me.
Well, see, my issue with the whole atheism versus theism police position, I tend to try to view it as an actual dichotomy. As if I ask you, hey, do you believe a God exists, and you tell me anything other than yes, then I see you as some type of atheist, whether strong or weak atheist, but you don't believe a God exists. You either believe they do not exist, you lack their belief, or you haven't, answered. I guess the way that I see some people's position as far as not really participating in the question or answering the question is you are still either atheist or theist. You just have not actually answered the question yet. And I'm not sure if that's what you were leaning more towards.
What would be the question? What do you think is, because the question, I think the great debate question is, does God exist? That's always been the canonical form of it. Would you agree? Does God exist? That's and I mean canonical as that's the most oftenly used in historical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why you can answer that question with yes or no is the fact that in philosophy, atheism and theism is set up as contradictories. So you have if theism is false, atheism is true. If atheism is false, then theism is true. So if you say yes to that question, you're a theist. You say no, you're an atheist. That's a very simple way of having a schema for that. Would you agree? I mean, you don't have to agree with the schema, but that's a very simple way of looking at it, right? Does God exist? Yes, theist, no, atheist. Boom, done. Not complex, not very complicated, right?
Sure, to an extent. I can agree with that.
And then if you say, I don't know, right, which is an indirect answer, you're agnostic.
Well, see, when somebody responds with, I don't know, that to me falls into that gray area of you haven't answered the question yet. You either haven't thought about it or you haven't. It doesn't mean that you're still.
That is an answer. That's an indirect answer. I think I don't know is a perfectly acceptable I don't know. Right.
I mean,
indirect answer.
Yeah, I mean, in a discussion, yes, it's just not. To me, it seems like okay. If I ask you, do you believe a God exists, and you say I don't know, to me, you're still technically an atheist based on, I guess, the vagueness of the definition, but you haven't actually either thought about it enough to answer the question. And to me, you are still either theist or atheist. You just have not answered it yet.
Well, I have thought about it though, so that doesn't apply to me.
Right, but you're saying you haven't taken a position on it, so you're saying I don't know. But to me, you still end up being in one position or the other. We just don't know yet.
Okay, well that doesn't make any sense to me. And let me explain. Let me go back to the whole Dillahunty gumball thing because we all love the gumballs, right? Christopher, you like your balls, right?
Oh yeah.
So we're going to use Christopher's gumballs in this analogy because we're going to talk about his balls. So Brian, you don't get jealous because I'm straight, dude. So he's all yours. Don't worry. So let's see you have the jar gumballs thing, right? I have one sitting right here. Imagine. Do you believe that they're odd or do you believe that they're even?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have need more information to kind of pick one or the other.
Well, yeah, but the question is, okay, excuse me. Chris, why don't you moderate for a second? And I don't mean it in a bad way because this is a great conversation. I'm loving this, but moderate so we kind of make sure that we're not talking past each other and we're answering questions. Let's do this yes or no type way. Say yes or no. I don't know. Okay. And I'm not trying to pigeonhole you and you're not accountable for this later on. It's just that in order to try to do it a little more Socratically, it helps if you try to narrow down somebody's position to see if it's cogent or not. Right. So I'm going to ask you with the gumballs, do you believe that they're even?
No.
Okay. Do you believe that they're odd?
No.
Okay. So you have no belief either way, which is perfectly right. I mean, I would answer the same way. I have no belief that they're even. I have no belief that they're odd. That is the agnostic position. You are agnostic on the gumballs. Now, if I said, well, you know what, I'm just going to label odd such that if you lack a belief in even, you're automatically odd. Would that be fair to you?
No.
Right. And that's what the atheist tries to do when they assume other types of positions like agnosticism or theological cognitivist or ichtheist, which I think is a silly position. But that's exactly what the atheist is trying to do. And the reason they're trying to do that is because they want to have higher numbers. It's an artificial inflation. It is an umbrella term they're trying to use to say, we want to normalize atheism, which is fine. I don't have a fault with that. I think we should normalize it clearly. But I think
you've let our secrets out, Steve.
This is, well, it's not just a secret. I asked Pam Whistle, who's the chief editor of American Atheist, this, right? I mean, she literally told me the exact same thing. She even said, American Atheist page is not for somebody who wants to learn philosophy. It's not philosophical. Don't go to for philosophical reference. It is to get people to use the term atheist and join the organization, right? And this is from the editor herself. But this is the same thing. If I was to assume him to say, look, well, you're not holding that they're even, so I'm just going to say that you're an oddist. I think that's disingenuous, and that's the argument I make for atheists. I think it's disingenuous about the position.
Well, Dave, before we go into that, let's let Eric do his a response, since he hasn't gotten to say anything in return yet.
So as far as the gumball thing, when you say, okay, when you ask, do I believe this if it's odd, and I say no, then do I believe if it's even, and I say no, that's more comparative to me as to somebody asking, do you believe, or do you believe a God exists? And I say no. Do you believe a God does not exist? And I also say no. That's more comparative to me as far as making the claim that a God exists versus making the claim a God does not exist.
Run that by me with the gumball in expression for the gumballs, though, because we're talking about the gumballs.
So when you ask me, okay, because I'm either I guess you're trying to point out that I don't have to believe that it is odd, or I don't have to believe that it is even. I can say I don't know,
right?
But that's more, to me, that fits more into the question, or at least comparatively, as do you believe a God exists? I don't know. Do you believe a God does not exist? I don't know. Like, that's more. I'm not sure if that makes sense exactly to you, but like if as far as my definition of an atheist, somebody that lacks belief in a God, not necessarily claiming a God does not exist.
Right, but when it goes back to the gumballs again, look at if you're not saying that they're even, all I'm doing is saying, well, you lack a belief that they're even, so I'm going to make you an oddist. And the theist can do the exact same thing. This is something a lot of atheists don't think about. There is a proposition for atheism. Would you agree that if you're going to give atheism a proposition, it would be the belief that God does not exist? And we're going to look at it from more of a philosophical way. But if you're going to mirror it, right? Since the proposition of theism is at least one God exists, right? The mirror of that would be at least one God does not exist, right? That's just negation, right?
Well, to me, that sounds more like, okay, if a theist asks me, do you believe a God exists? And I say no. So then they say, then you must believe a God does not exist. Just like with the whole, do you believe it's the gumballs are odd? If you don't, then you believe that there are even.
Right, but sort of look at the prop is if I negate the proposition of theism, right? It is saying that I believe that there is no gods. But look at the proposition is. If I say the proposition is there are no gods, can you work with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so a philosophical atheist would say that, right? There are no gods, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's contentious. Okay. A theist would say, well, if you don't believe that's true, then you lack a belief in that proposition. You're now a theist. That's the same exact thing the atheist is doing. No different. It's mirroring, right? Because the theist has the proposition. The atheist is saying, well, I lack a belief in that. And the theist is saying, and the atheist is saying, well, if you lack a belief in that, then you're an atheist. Well, on the mirror side of it, if you have a proposition where that you support that there are no gods and you don't hold to that, then you're not an atheist, philosophically speaking. Therefore, you must be a theist, right? So the theist, if they really wanted to, could pull that exact same game.
Right, but I guess that's not what, at least based on the definition that I understand of atheism, which includes someone that either believes gods don't exist or somebody that lacks belief that gods exist.
Right.
Not necessarily making the claim either way, though.
That's just, the problem with these definitions is you are more focused into the definitions. We're trying to express it in concepts, right? Definitions don't mean shit to me as much as concepts do. Definitions are just words. I want to know the concepts, right? And I can show the concepts logically that I don't have to use the words, right? Matter of fact, it's weird because you can take a whole bunch of different things and have different logical meanings, but if you have the logic, it only has one meaning in English. So a whole bunch of things can convert to one thing logically, but only one thing converts from logically to English. Kind of a cool little thing. Go ahead, Christopher. Sorry.
So one thing I wanted to note is that there's a complete fallacy with trying to say that atheism means multiple things. You say that atheism means belief that there is no God and that it also means a lack of belief in a God. You are committing false equivocation.
But see, I don't see how that applies, because I mean, versus using the philosophical definition versus a colloquial definition you can find in the dictionary, it includes both, though. At least in the dictionary that I would reference versus the philosophical sense.
That's because of colloquial dictionary is not actually using logic and is not critically thinking about anything. A colloquial dictionary is just writing down what everyone says. That's why there's also going to be at least 4 or 5 other definitions of atheism within a dictionary on average.
It's right. And I definitely agree there.
So at this point, well, the only way that you're going to be able to think about this critically is if you're going to take a logical stance for it. And if you're going to think about this logically, you can't be saying that it means multiple things, because then you're committing a false equivocation fallacy, and therefore it becomes illogical.
Well, same thing with the word, again, evolution, right? You don't want to use the term just change. You don't want to use theory as a guess, even though in the dictionary it says theory is a guess, right? Dictionary says it must be true. But a dictionary, again, it's descriptive. It's not prescriptive. It only tells you how words are generally used in the most widest sense, not how they should be used in context. And again, as Christopher pointed out, and as I noted, logic doesn't give a shit about your definitions in English, right? I can write out in a logical form, right? And I do it many times, you know, the predicate B and then the proposition P. That doesn't give a shit what your definitions are. I believe P. Okay, it doesn't give a shit what your definitions of atheism are at that point. It's just whatever your proposition is.
Steve, you had pointed out a few people have said that, you know, the reason that they push it in that particular way is to popularize atheism or normalize or whatnot.
Right.
And I know that you take issue with that approach. What did you think of the openly secular movement thing that happened a while back?
You mean like secularism? You talking about humanism?
No, just there was a campaign a while back. They had a whole bunch of different celebrities and people.
Are you talking about Atheism Plus?
To be able to say just that they're openly secular. That was it. They didn't attach the label atheism to it at all. Just meant they weren't. They didn't have a God belief necessarily. It's not necessarily actively believing in it or not in it. But they weren't religious or spiritual or what, secular.
Yeah, secular to me just means separation of church and state. That's all it means. We're all secularists. Even most theists I know are secularists, right? So I have no issue with that. I don't know what that's with atheism, though.
Well, I mean, it's not just with church and state. It's just generally denoting attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. No,
that's humanism. Secularism is literally the separation of church and state. I don't add any of that other. So that's like atheism plus. I don't throw on other stuff, right? And by the way, I never said the colloquial definition is illogical. Never, ever in my life, ever say that. It's logical. The problem is it has baggage, and it can lead to one possible contradiction, like the theological economist, and also leads to absurdities, like rocks being theist, or rocks being atheist. I still think that's the most absurd argument I've ever heard. Actual atheists tell me that they believe babies are atheists, rocks are atheists, stars are atheists. I'm like, that's bizarre to me. But I've had atheists argue that, and they're not logically incorrect according to their schema. So,
yeah, where I take a problem where I'm saying that I think it's illogical is when you try to say that it has multiple definitions and use them in one context.
Well, I see what you mean as far as using them in the same context, but like when me and Steve were having a conversation earlier on Facebook, I don't see why there's a problem with once there's this confusion of, okay, it could mean this and it could mean this as well. Let's clarify. Let's agree on what we're actually talking about and what that actual definition is, and that way we're on the same page and know what we're actually discussing. I don't see a problem with doing that when you come to a situation where there are multiple definitions.
Right, but that means that we need to look for a critical definition, not one that is just being colloquially used. Because if we're going to rely on a colloquial definition, like the colloquial version of atheism, that is, the lack of belief, say. I think that's on like Atheist America website and stuff like that.
Right. If you're going to lack of belief or disbelief,
if you say or disbelief, you've added a second part to that definition. You're now giving it actually two meanings at once, and then now you're getting an equivocation fallacy. So if you just say lack of belief, the problem is that that is identical to philosophical agnosticism.
And it's assumes it, right? Because somebody like in the live chat is saying, well, all they're doing is taking atheism and making it non-theist. Non-theism is equal to atheism, which is exactly true. Matter of fact, I made the same argument in philosophical atheism the other day. Exactly that same thing, right? You have a or not a, theist or not theist, and all you're doing is just changing not theist into atheist. Okay, well, you know what? I can do that with anything. I say theist or car. If you're not a theist, you're a car. It's a simple disjunction, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Well, let's assume that is the case. That is theist or atheist, right? If I have to ask how many atheists are there on the planet, and atheists can include anything, then I have to narrow that down, because you don't ask how many non-theists there are, because non-theist is very vague, right? Nobody goes around saying I'm a non-theist. It doesn't tell you anything, right? Nobody ever self-identifies as a non-theist. There's a reason for that, right? It's just a complementary set to theist. Anything that's not a theist must be in the non-theist set. It has no other option.
Yeah, but see, I think the issue that I have with it is when you say, okay, if the definition that we're going with as far as lacks belief also matches the philosophical definition of agnosticism, then you're just preferring the philosophical definition because that identifies better, or what you prefer from what atheism is defining as well. No, even though they match both, but
much more than that, because
it clarifies the issue. It actually gets us down to an ability to use these terms critically. If we were to just accept the colloquial definition of atheism, the problem is that atheism has, at least in Webster's, I think, 5 different definitions attached to it, and just within the first one it actually has 2, because it's called the lack of belief or disbelief, which automatically means now you're dealing with 2 different definitions for the same label, and that does not help us in any way to actually narrow down what atheism is.
Yeah, it makes it more vague.
Yeah, and a vague definition is useless. Listen, I mean, what if evolution was biological change? That was the definition of evolution.
I mean, if you have a vague definition to address the belief in a vague concept, I don't necessarily think that's not
it's not a vague concept, though.
What is vague about theism? There's nothing vague about that. The proposition is very clear. At least one God exists. That's not vague at all. That's just the opposite of vague.
Now, if you want to talk about maybe the definition of God or whatever being vague and go the ichtheist route.
What I mean is when you look at, so if you look at like the average religious person who believes in a very specific set of ideologies, specific religion, whatever their holy book is, there's a ton of baggage attached to that, right? Like it's not just, oh, there happens to be one God. When they're like, I'm a theist, I believe in this specific God and these rules and these fables.
Okay, but you keep bringing it down to a local atheist. We're talking about global atheism here. I don't know what it has to do with local atheism.
What I'm saying is, though,
any theist will posit that a God exists. Would you agree?
Sure.
That's it. That's what we're talking about. What an individual theist might do, I don't really have an interest in right now.
We are not talking. Yeah, we're not talking about any specific God. We're not talking specifically about Yahweh. We're not talking specifically about the Olympian deities. Nothing.
Right.
We are talking about the idea of a God in general. And if you can just think of any God in the world, whatever it is, you have a concept of a God. And if you don't believe that it exists, you're an atheist. If you have no position on the matter, you're an agnostic.
Right, but then simple as that. No position.
Well, hang on. If you believe there's no God, you're in. I mean, if you're talking about philosophically, if you believe there's no God, not just if you do not believe.
Right.
If you don't believe in a God, that's a necessary but not sufficient condition.
Yeah. Sorry, I messed that a little bit.
Well, I guess what I'm saying,
we're asking though, what's more useful, and we're explaining. A narrow definition is always going to be more precise than a broad one. That's a give me, right? You can't say that a broad definition is more precise than a narrow definition. That makes no sense at all, right? And we want to know what people believe. These positions are supposed to be what you believe, right? Atheism is one of those rare ones that people always want to try to frame in the negative because of Anthony Flew in 1976 when he wrote Presumption of Atheism, right? But that's the only position I can think of in philosophy that anybody ever tries to frame in the negative. And I think it's dishonest. I really do. Because all other positions are belief positions. They're all framed in the positive. I believe this. I believe that. This is what I hold. But when it comes to atheism, oh no, that's just a lack of belief. That's just crap.
Well, I mean, it's a lack of belief in a specific thing, though.
Well, so right? What? What does that matter?
It doesn't make a difference.
Lack of belief, but I'm not an atheist. And if you look at agnosticism and atheism has to do with ontology, and agnosticism has to do with epistemology, right? So, so ontology, which would be the God exists and God does not exist positions, I have no position on that. So I'm not going to be labeled an atheist because that's an ontological label. So I'm looking at an epistemic label.
I'm assuming, though, I'm like, I know that you're talking. There's the difference between local atheism and global, right? I get that. But if you were to go through a list of the proposed gods that you're aware of, right? All right. Somebody says, "Okay, Steve, how about Catholicism? Are you agnostic on Catholicism specifically? Are you no, I don't believe that." Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you eliminate all the available options, then all you're left with is a vague notion.
Not believing something is not the same as saying I disbelieve it.
Yeah, and by the way, I can say, hey, David, what do you want for dinner? Well, I don't want chicken. I don't want fish. I don't want apricots. I don't want grapes. Okay, you can sit there all the damn day you want, but it doesn't tell me what the hell you want.
Sure, but what I'm asking is you wouldn't consider, like, I'm assuming, I'm asking, do you consider yourself agnostic on the proposed religions you've heard of, or just the general?
All of them. Not religion. It has nothing to do with religion. I'm not a fan of religion. I'm not anti-religion, but I'm not a fan of religion. But religion has nothing to do with atheism. They're two different things. One's the practice of something. The other one's a belief that either God exists or God does not exist. Religion is the practice of that stuff, right? And even then, it doesn't have to do with God. You can have religion that's non-theistic. Yes, Brandon, your mic is horrible, dude. But you keep bringing in all this extraneous stuff, and I don't get it because this has nothing to do with religion. But agnostic means that on the proposition of at least one God existing, I don't have an answer to it. I don't know. I don't assign a propositional value to it. Doesn't mean I'm agnostic on everything. I could totally say I disbelieve Santa exists. I believe Santa is a farce. But this guy I was talking to just a few minutes ago couldn't say that. We finally think he did. But at first it was like, oh, well, it could be. I don't know if he doesn't exist. Well, I know Santa does not exist. I'm not agnostic on that proposition. That's a different proposition altogether.
Yeah, and then you can also be like, I disbelieve Berkeley's idealism. Has no bearing on being an atheist or an agnostic.
None.
Right, but I guess, and I'm not sure if I'm just not explaining it correctly, but when somebody asks you, for instance, Steve, are you or do you believe in God, or do you believe gods don't exist? Mm-hmm. And you say, I don't have a position on that.
No. I do have a position on that. Gods, I believe. I don't have a belief in gods.
Okay, but you were just saying that I don't hold a position on just a moment ago.
I don't have a position between I believe gods exist and I believe gods do not exist. Okay. I do have a position on I believe God exists or do not believe God exists, because that's a dichotomy. I don't believe that gods exist. I'm not a theist. So the only other thing I could be would be a not theist, meaning that I do not have a God belief.
Okay. When you say that,
natural dichotomy, there's no, you have to be one or the other.
Okay.
It's a fallacy of bisection.
Well, with the first example that you presenting, where you say I don't have like a belief one way or the other, or I don't hold a position one way or the other.
Right.
That, to me, that literally just sounds like, okay, then you just haven't answered the question yet.
Well, I have answered the question. I mean, I haven't.
You just don't like the answer.
Yeah, I have answered it though. I don't. Again, with the gumballs, what is even or odd? If you say, "Well, I don't know," you've answered the question the best you can. I can't expect more than anything else. That's the only rational answer you can give. Is you don't know. You're agnostic on that.
But again, I guess I'm not looking at the gumball things that same way though, because that's all I was trying to say earlier with the gumballs. When you say when I say, okay, I don't believe that the gumballs are even, and I don't believe that the gumballs are odd. That's like me saying, I don't believe a God exists, and I don't believe a God does not exist.
You're agnostic. There you go. That's agnosticism. That's
exactly. And that doesn't mean that to me. That's my problem there.
I can't help what it means to you. This is what it means.
I mean, this is what it means. This is what it means when we talk about it critically.
Yes,
it means agnosticism.
If I don't hold a position either way, agnosticism is defined to be the psychological position on a proposition, any proposition, right? It's the state of being agnostic on that proposition. If you literally, and there's no other definition out there that I can find when it comes to agnostic, not agnosticism, but agnostic, and you can try finding one, maybe you can. But if you say you don't have a truth value to that proposition of true and false, you are agnostic on that proposition. If you want to find me another word for that, be my guest, but I don't know any off the top of my head. There could be. But what do you want to call that position then?
I think when you're saying the true value, you're talking about like actually saying truth that value. You know.
Truth value. TRF. True or false? That's a truth value.
Okay. Well, so when you say that, it seems like you're changing it to where, as far as agnosticism, you're holding as if you're claiming to know this, or you're claiming.
Oh, how do you do knowledge? Don't bring up. Don't even, for this conversation. Don't use the word no, because it's just going to confuse her. I guarantee it. These are all beliefs, right? All beliefs, has nothing to do with knowledge. What? Okay. But let me ask you specifically. What do you want to call this position, where you don't believe that they're even and you don't believe that they're odd? What do you want to call that position?
I don't know what you mean by that. Like, as far as like the gumball example, right?
You hold to, if the proposition is that the gumballs are even, and you're saying I don't believe P is true and I don't believe P is false, what do you want to call that position? Everybody else that knows logic is going to call that agnostic.
I could understand that if I was going off of the philosophical definition.
But what do you want to call it? If you don't want to use the philosophical definition for agnostic, what do you want to call that position?
I would call it, you haven't answered the question yet. Like, I don't know. You haven't taken a position on it.
That's not a word. I need to know what word you want to
call it. There's not a word for it. That's what I'm saying. Is that when I ask somebody that question and you don't answer it, it's like, okay,
well, fair enough.
Doesn't mean that.
Eric, fair enough. Listen, you don't have a word for it. Guess what? We do. And our word means something. So because you don't have a word for it, you've just now showing why our words are more useful, because we have a word. If I say, hey, Chris, I'm agnostic on the proposition of gumballs, he's going to automatically know that I don't hold the P as true and I don't hold the P as false. I've conveyed meaning to him. The word has usage. It's more useful than you saying, well, there's no such word I can think of for it. Right?
Well, I guess the reason why I don't see agnosticism in that philosophical sense, because I also see the definition of an agnostic, meaning not holding to a knowledge of something, because I see Gnostic and agnostic as knowledge claims versus belief claims. And I don't see how that could apply to, in that philosophical sense that you're using.
That's all says belief is a subset of knowledge.
All knowledge is a subset of belief, so your point is kind of moot.
Yeah, you have to believe something before you know it. You can't know something if you don't believe it. Right, Eric?
Well, if I know gravity exists,
you believe gravity.
Then I believe it exists. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
But how does that work the other way around? If I say I believe gravity exists, then that just means I'm convinced. That doesn't mean that I know it.
You're right.
Right.
Very much right. Yep. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what's the question then? Yeah, you're exactly right on that.
Because I mean, because like, okay, if based on my education, I know gravity is real, I know gravity is a fact, and I know how it works. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm convinced that it exists. I believe it.
Yes, me too.
But if I start off with saying I believe gravity exists, mm-hmm. What do I believe it based on?
Okay, so far I'm
evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I believe on gravity because I can drop something and see it fall. I can read about general relativity, understand what makes it fall. I understand a little bit about Newtonian mechanics and a little bit about relativity enough to say, hey, I understand this gravity thing. It exists, right? I know that it exists because I can drop something and it falls. There you go. Boom.
And therefore, I'm convinced I believe it.
Yes. What's wrong with that?
Well, I guess my problem is it sounded like you were saying that it goes the other way around.
No, you have. If you believe something, it doesn't mean you necessarily know it. But if you know it, you necessarily believe it.
Right. Okay. I agree with that.
Okay.
I don't. I must have just misunderstood what you were. Okay.
But again, I want to go back to. I think this is critical. Do you agree though? The word agnostic in this conversation has meaning, has cognitive meaning, because I can tell Chris, or I can tell Darlick here that what agnostic is, and they're going to know what it means.
Well, when I'm talking to
else,
you,
I go to a total stranger, they might know what it means.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the context of us having a discussion, I know you're referring to it in a philosophical sense, but agnostic has a different definition that I would normally use versus if I'm using it with you.
Okay, well, again, what other definition of Gnostic, not agnosticism, but agnostic towards a proposition? What does that mean to you? If you heard,
to me, it's a lack of knowledge claim. It has to do with knowledge.
So are you doing the thing where you've sort of decoupled Gnosticism and theism, so you could have like an agnostic or a Gnostic atheist, or an agnostic or Gnostic theist?
He might be, but
yeah, something like that.
I don't want to go down that route just yet. But again, the fact that you're relating it to knowledge, it just doesn't make sense, because
and that's my problem though, because based on the definitions that I can look up almost anywhere, except when I'm talking to you or in a philosophical course, and I see your point there, but in an average everyday dictionary, those definitions are referring to knowledge versus atheist and theism.
And those definitions are very, very, very broad and very, very layman. I mean, right. Eric, would you wait a minute? Would you, if you want to learn calculus, are you going to go to a first grade book? No, clearly not, right? So why do you keep going back to this dictionary? Oh, well, the dictionary says. If I want to learn biology, am I going to look at a dictionary and go, oh, look, it says evolution is change, therefore I'm evolving? Is that a true statement? I'm changing. Am I evolving?
Sure.
No, I'm not.
Okay, repeat what you said.
You're right. Yeah, no, that's not.
I can't evolve. The populations evolve in biology, right? Individuals don't evolve, correct?
Okay, you're talking about just studying biology, the study of biology evolving.
If I want to learn biology, right, and I went to a dictionary, right, and I said, hey, Brian, I have this dictionary and I'm learning biology and it says change. So therefore, I'm changing every day, so I'm evolving. That would follow from the dictionary, would it not?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Based on that definition, yes.
Okay, so if I went to my professor and said, hey, but my dictionary says I'm evolving in biology class, what is he going to do?
Well, that's in a different context, and somebody that abides by different definitions.
Different context. It is exactly the same. What is that professor going to do?
They're going to say I'm wrong, right? Just like you are going to say I'm wrong because you're using a different definition.
Yeah, see, you're getting it. Exactly.
Well, I don't know but Steve, I don't know that they're necessarily going to say that you're wrong. You're just wrong you're in the wrong context. They're going to move you into the context that's required for that material. Like if I say I'm evolving,
well, we're talking about clearly we're talking about in context. Right? David said at the beginning, if I want to learn biology, I'm talking about the context of biology. Clearly, okay. So if I had a test and it says, do you evolve? And I put yes. Do you think that instructor is going to get marked right because I have a dictionary?
Depends on who you're talking to, apparently.
No instructor in the world is going to mark that right. I guarantee it. None. Come on, be serious. They're not. The instructor's going to go, no, you can't evolve. Populations evolve. They want you to understand the concepts.
In a formal setting, yes, I agree with you.
Well, and again, why does that have to be a formal setting?
Because it applies.
I talk about it the same way I always do.
Yeah, we're just so used to using colloquial definitions. It's like part of the zeitgeist.
Sure, but again, that's only because I've noticed something. This only seems to happen in groups where atheists kind of gather. If you go to talk with the philosophical groups, like actual philosophical people, there's never this discussion.
Right, but that's exactly what you just said.
They understand the concepts.
But yeah, because you're talking to philosophers, you're talking to somebody with like either a formal education or someone like yourself that's studied it yourself. That's a whole different set of people versus they use different definitions.
The only thing I would say is this, right? Like, if your aim is to, and I know in your case, Steve, oftentimes it is is to educate people on the proper definitions in a philosophical sense,
Right.
then it makes sense if you're in a conversation with somebody to drag them into the proper definition, right? To change the context and correct them if they're wrong. If your general aim is to have a conversation with people about a different topic, getting hung up on a philosophical definition and not just rolling with the colloquial term because it's not necessary within the context of the conversation is really useful.
Okay, let's run with that, Dave. A bunch of people have a conversation. I jump into it. They say, "Hey, Steve, what are you?" I say, "Well, I'm an agnostic." "Well, you're an atheist." "No, I'm not." "Well, yeah, you are, Steve." "Well, no, I'm not." Now I'm stuck with their fucked up definition because they're trying to define me. That's the only argument that I have. If people want to have these discussions amongst themselves, use any fucking definition you want. Call each other. I don't give a shit. But now that you're involving me, if I'm in a group of people using colloquial definitions, I have to tell them I don't use that definition. Therefore, I'm not an atheist. Wait, let me finish. But then they say, "Steve, you're wrong." That's when the shit hits the fan because I'm not wrong. I'm using different definitions and they don't seem to understand. You know how many atheists I know do not even know this
I agree. If somebody's going to call you wrong for using the correct definition.
But they do all the time, David. All the fucking time. Every day. Every day.
I mean, definitions objective instead of subjective.
Yeah, I moderate several groups, and I can actually see that happening.
There's two things I noticed, Brian. Correct me if I'm wrong. Many atheists, right, especially in the Christian versus atheist groups, do not know there are actual philosophical definitions of atheism, which is the belief that gods do not exist. Would you agree with that? They don't know. And you point it out to them and they call me a liar. Or they say, well, you have to be one or the other because colloquial definitions are the only definitions that we use. Okay, well, I don't use your definition, so just what do you want me to do about it? I don't force people to say they're atheist or agnostic. I don't force them to use philosophical definitions. If they want to call themselves an atheist, as a lack of belief atheist, I've never told them not to. I've never said, well, you have to call yourself an agnostic, ever. In my entire 5 years on YouTube, I've never once made that argument. So explain to me, anybody, why they have the right to tell me what I have to label myself. I'm willing to open an argument for that.
I'm not saying that is something that you should do or have to Yeah, you're right in that context. Perfectly fine. Somebody's gonna call it a definition and say that you're wrong about it. You have every reason to defend that.
Somebody just said Steve's an agnostic atheist. Is that true?
No.
If you understand what they likely mean by that,
I don't care what they likely mean. They're putting out misinformation by calling me an agnostic atheist. If somebody would see that without knowing who I am, they're going to get the wrong impression. Matter of fact, agnostic atheism, as I've pointed out and I've demonstrated, is nonsensical in the weak case and superfluous in the strong case. So I'm not a nonsensical person. I'm not going to take a label called agnostic atheism, which I know is nonsensical in the strong case or in the weak case.
It's nonsensical within the framework of philosophy, but it has a meaning within the.
Well, no, I didn't say that. Now that you changed it, let me ask you this: it is sensical in the strong case, right? It's a superfluous. There's a difference.
Well, let me ask you this:
in the strong case.
So if I'm having a conversation, let's say with my brother, and we use the colloquial terms, and we're discussing you. If I'm talking to my brother and I say Steve is an atheist, and me and my brother are agreeing on the same terms and the same definitions, are we wrong in calling you an atheist?
No, I don't give a shit what you say to each other, but what you say on your own time. But if you say it in front of me, I'm going to correct you.
Right, but yeah, exactly, and that's what I mean. If we're talking to you and you say no, you are not an atheist, you are agnostic, you are perfectly okay in correcting it and explaining why and defining why.
Yeah, I don't care what people do in their own time. Doesn't bother me. I mean, it's just bizarre that I have to keep on explaining things to people the same thing over and over and over again. I don't get it. Like, for example, when somebody says Steve's an agnostic atheist, no, I'm not. That's a lie. That's a complete falsehood. That's like saying, hey, Eric, you're a theist. And Eric says, well, no, I'm not a theist. I'm like, well, Romans 1 says that you know God. Well, what's the difference? The theist is just as dishonest, right?
Well, the reason why you keep having to do that is because you're talking to 80% of the population that's going off of the colloquial definitions versus the philosophical.
Well, as long
that's not his fault that the population
that's a population.
Oh, no, I agree. But I'm saying when you come across something like that and you're talking to somebody that doesn't abide by the definitions you abide by, it's perfectly fine for you to explain that and why it is.
But as soon as they say, well, Steve, you have to be theist or atheist, what am I supposed to tell them? What would you have me do?
Okay, what's your okay, you ask what's your definition of atheist, and if you don't agree with it, you explain that and what your definition is that you're going by. And that's why when we were actually having in the thread, and I know I did this myself because I know Brian had came in about it, and that's when I corrected it and said, okay, based on my definition, are you atheist, or based on your definition, you are agnostic? Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, based upon weak atheist, yeah, that I'd be a weak atheist, sure.
Right, and that's all I guess I was trying to.
We've always known. I mean, I've said that for years now, but that doesn't.
Yeah, no, and like
that's like saying, you know, if I wanted to define a non-theist as a potato, I'm a potato. Okay, under that definition, I'm a potato. It means nothing to me. Again, concepts are more important than definitions. I don't give a shit about definitions as much as I do concepts.
Yep. By the way, my comments in the group thread was actually directed at Steve and Chris, so that I was trying to keep it from becoming a dumpster fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's just.
Are you working 24 hours a day? You're like always at work, Brian.
Yes.
You have a life? I've never seen you at work.
There's no life. Okay, but so that I just didn't want the conversation to get out of hand and resort to name calling. That's all that was about.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I have not used one pejorative in your group.
Yeah.
Not one. Well, but I never had a pejorative.
Yeah, so we need to go back to our groups and be good agnostic allies.
Yeah, you know what it is, Steve.
Okay, Brandon, mute your mic.
Yeah, Brandon, your mic is. You got to get a mic if you're going to come into the Hangouts, Steve. Seriously, it
sounds like cancer.
What it is, I think, Steve, from the outside perspective, when people are looking at your position, I'm not saying this personally, but it would be like you know, going up to people all the time, say, I feel really gay today, and they're going to take that a specific way. And if you want to die on the hill of, you know, that just means happy. What are you talking about?
No, that is ridiculous, David. That is not.
So I think that's how people are viewing the argument. I'm not saying that's my.
Oh, okay. Well,
right?
I think I don't care how people are viewing it because people are ignorant.
Yeah, and you know, here's the funniest thing, and I have to agree with Chris on this. It seems like everybody's fine when we educate people on biology and physics and science.
Yeah.
But when it comes to philosophy, not so much. Why is that?
I think it's because people think philosophy is just opinions.
But you know that's not true. You're not.
Oh, I know. That's why I said that. What I was saying wasn't the position I'm holding. I'm just saying I think that this is what the optics are to the average person.
Well, my favorite is when people say that science has nothing to do with philosophy.
Oh God, I hate that. Yeah,
well, the problem also arises is when people see philosophy as just one big circle going nowhere and not answering any questions. I guarantee that's not true, but that's the perception I had at one.
Yeah, no, I get that, Brian, because I was like that way 5-6 years ago myself. I thought philosophy was ridiculous. I had no use for it. I thought it was a bunch of guys sitting around drinking cognac and smoking cigars. Right. You know, I really, until I had a friend of mine who was like a 27, 28-year-old PhD in philosophy that would run circles around me. This was before I even came on YouTube, and I got tired of it. And I was like, what the fuck? This guy's kicking my ass. I don't know anything about this shit. Well, you know what? Now I give him a run for his money. He actually even told me that in some areas I understand things conceptually wise better than he does, he says. And that's in 5 years, that's you know, I like reading about this stuff. I don't have anywhere the knowledge of anybody who's actually formally educated in it. Not by any stretch of the imagination do I have the knowledge that they have. But I like the concepts, and I think I can relate the concepts very well. And I like to have discussions, right?
Somebody in the chat just tried to say that philosophy leads to paradoxes, whereas I would say that, like,
no,
philosophy understands that paradoxes exist.
Right, I agree with that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and then also it looks at why some paradoxes just don't work.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris. Let me ask you this, because you're the one of the more philosophically minded here. So when people say things like, you know, philosophy is a circle jerk and all that kind of stuff, and I say, hey, Chris, why is it that we don't kill 5 people and take their organs to save 1 person? Why is that we don't do that? There's a scientific reason for that.
Yeah, it's because we have to. We've sat down and people have had a philosophical discussion of
Oh,
ethics. Yeah,
we had a philosophical discussion about morality of that. Oh, it wasn't because of science. Science doesn't have a jack shit to say about that. It doesn't matter to science if you do that, right? But philosophy matters too. What's that?
Brandon, hit the mute.
Brian, I gotta let you go, man. Come back when you get a better mic.
I'm sorry,
but your mic is terrible, dude.
Yeah,
the problem is that
without using deduction.
I think the biggest problem that, especially in every single community, theist, atheist, agnostic, everywhere, is that no one actually learns or is getting educated on philosophy and how to think and how to use their critical mind.
Right.
We don't teach philosophy or logic in school. Like, the best we get is you take a geometry course, and everyone knows that you just bullshit it and get your high school degree and get out of there, and you forget it a month later.
Yeah.
That's the best you get.
And by the way, if you guys haven't noticed, when you guys watch these professional debaters, the ones that do the best know philosophy a little bit, or even a lot. They kick the theist ass, right? So, I mean, I think it'd behoove atheists to go out and try to learn a little more about philosophy, because all the best debaters, I mean, look at Matt Dillahunty. He's been learning a lot about philosophy lately, and his arguments are becoming so much better over the last 8 years I've watched him.
Yeah,
Steve, can I ask you?
That's not a fair fight.
Well, Matt,
hey guys, Brian's trying to.
Well, I was going to ask Steve. Do you know any theist philosophers that know their stuff when it comes to philosophy?
Yeah. Cameron, which would be aspiring philosophy, and was that his name? Cameron? No, wait. Cameron's the other guy. There's a guy. Besides, aspiring philosophy is one of them, and then there's also Cameron, he has another channel called Capturing Christianity.
And there's like some that are now gone, but I mean, personally, I don't think I would stand 5 minutes in a room with C.S. Lewis
or Plantinga.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either, probably.
Those guys knew their shit. They were brilliant minds.
Genius. I mean, if you guys have not read C.S. Lewis, for a theist, was one brilliant dude.
I consider him to have made the absolute best arguments for Christianity ever made.
I always find that when they try to make the leap from, making a philosophical argument for the potential existence of a god to this specific god of this specific doctrine is the correct one, that it usually becomes a weak argument.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any strong arguments for God. If I did, I'd probably be a theist again, right? But again, I hate using the word strong and weak there, because
I know we're mixing
there, and I know we all know what it means right here. But to the audience, strong and weak in this case is meaning towards the conviction, not to belief and not belief, right?
Yeah. I misspoke, but
no, it's fine. You didn't. But I just want to make sure that the audience gets that, because a lot of people, when they say, well, I'm not a strong atheist because, I believe there's no gods, but I'm not very confident in that. Well, that's strong atheism. I hate to break it to you. You don't have to be confident to be a strong atheist. You just have to believe there's no gods.
Yeah. For me, I mean, just for the sake of reading, just so you know, I've always suggested, even to atheists, to read people like C.S. Lewis, because he's one of the ones I've influenced probably most of all modern apologetics the most.
I read the Screw Tape Letters in like elementary school.
What book would you recommend?
There are two.
Go ahead.
The two that I suggest are actually three. I'll suggest three: Mere Christianity, The Great Divorce, and Screw Tape Letters. And either Screw Tape Letters or Problem of Pain.
Screw Tape Letters was brilliant.
Yeah. I have every single book C.S. Lewis ever
I need to
wrote.
read Mere Christianity. I've been meaning to, and one of these days I will. But if you recommend it, I'll read it. But I know I love, like I said, I love Screw Tape Letters. The story of it, like Wormwood, and the little demons trying to get the soldier's soul, and he's just having a hell of a time. He's asking Lucifer for advice. It's just brilliant.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite stories. Really messed me up when I was still a believer. Like, but
Yeah.
By the way, is anybody here that wasn't? Is anybody here that wasn't ever been theist? Eric, were you ever a theist?
I don't think so. I mean,
You ever think about that, really?
I mean, I didn't really even become like really even think about the question until like probably early high school, honestly. Outside of that, I'd never really thought about it, so I don't think I was ever really an actual theist.
I think
Yeah,
with me it
but
was
did you
2004.
just sort of passively accept the proposition before that, or?
No.
So you weren't even like a cultural Christian or anything?
I mean, it went to church and everything, but I was like every other kid that hated it kind of thing. So
okay. No, that's fair. I can actually understand that. That would be more like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Lucifer Almighty? Were you and you've been awfully quiet. Were you I don't remember. You ever a theist?
Yeah. Like when I was 17.
And now you are a Satanist?
Just an atheist.
But you're a philosophical atheist, so
yes, I believe no gods exist.
A true atheist. Yeah.
So I did have another question, I guess, to transition.
I'm hoping this is like edifying for people. I know we talk about this shit a lot, but whatever.
Every time I pop into a hangout, this is the topic.
Whatever, man. You know, we all have our little niches we talk about, and we do change topics often.
My niche has always been to talk about solipsistic things. So
that's cool,
like nothing.
You know, we talked about that the other day.
Yeah,
by the way,
that was a good one.
I did a little hangout on Facebook. Well, a soliloquy. But I did a Facebook thing, and I went over the argument from contingency, and I thought it was pretty interesting. If anyone wants to go watch that off that group,
that one was really good. I did actually leave a comment. I had one little contention with you on there.
You did watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. Okay. It was mostly just over a little definition stuff, but not much.
Okay. You want before Eric asks his question, you want to tell me if you remember?
Oh, I need to find it real quick here.
And I might have like made a faux pas. It happens. But Eric, what's your question?
So, morality, subjective, objective. Kind of wanted to get you guys' viewpoints on that.
I personally, I kind of tend to what's called error theory, which says that moral propositional facts are propositions, but they're all untrue. But that's due to what's called an instantiation error. But I have no issue with objective morality existing as long as you can build a framework to justify it and ground it. Sam Harris does with harms and benefits. Carrier affirms that position. Wittgenstein does it with compassion and empathy. There's nothing wrong with having an objective moral framework. I find nothing wrong with it whatsoever. When I have somebody who tells me objective morality is not possible, then I have to ask them, what the hell have you read on this? Have you ever read a book on meta-ethics? Because no serious philosopher would take that seriously.
Yeah, I am a moral nihilist.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
So you're with me when it comes to Mackey's error theory?
Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. I don't deny that objective morality could exist.
Yeah.
I just have never read anything that I have found convincing.
Yeah, and it's independent. If we don't have to accept objective morality for somebody like David to say, well, he accepts objective morality. Okay, fine. That doesn't change my framework or his. We're all allowed to think differently. It doesn't change.
No, I'm pretty much on the same page as you. Although I think that
you're an error theorist.
Sort of. So, like, I don't necessarily think there's a way to prove objective morality, but I do think that you can weigh consequences within like social contract and whatnot in a way that's maximally beneficial to a group.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, I could accept that, but you don't prove one way or another. Either you build a subjective framework or you build an objective one. Math is objective, right? I can build an objective math framework using mathematical axioms. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to accept real mathematics, but that's built objectively. Morality is the same way. I can build an objective moral framework if I want to. That's what Sam Harris is doing. I don't have a single issue with that.
Can you explain that? Because I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, this is kind of more of a heuristic way of doing it, which means not exactly the same way it is, but for explanatory purposes. So when I say this, anybody who really knows about this topic is going to probably jump on this, but it goes. There's something called a moral fact, okay? And some people can say that a moral fact is either subjective or objective, and some people can say that moral facts don't exist, that propositions don't express moral beliefs. That would be a non-cognitivist position. Okay, so the way I would relate it is this: do you agree that 1 + 1 is an objective fact? 1 + 1 = 2. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter with Dave. If Dave sucks at math and he thinks 1 + 1 = 3, you're still going to say, "Hey, Dave, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. 1 + 1 = 2 because that's an objective fact based upon axioms, based upon analytical definitions."
Right.
Okay. All a morality person is doing, an objective morality person is doing, is taking that and applying it to morality. They're just saying there are moral facts that ontologically are true, and I don't know how we access them. You should never torture babies for fun. Would be an objective of morality. Something that's immoral always. It's always immoral to torture babies for fun, right?
Okay.
Now, Dave can say, "Well, I like torturing babies for fun." Okay, well, he's just wrong, just like he's saying 1 + 1 = 3. Just because he can have a different subjective opinion doesn't mean that to the objectivist that moral fact is wrong.
Okay. Now this is going to sound real.
You could have contradictory objectivist approaches too.
Yes.
And that's where debate happens.
Well, that goes when it gets to moral epistemology. How do we know what a moral fact is? How do we have access to a moral fact?
Right.
That's
that's where all my contentions with it come up.
Exactly.
Especially like when we try. So I always hate it when people try and compare it to like measurements or math. So I had this conversation actually earlier today with a guy about objective morality versus subjective morality, and so he tried first, setting up, do you accept that an inch is 2.54 centimeters? I gave him a list of different measurements of an inch in different countries. And I said, I can accept that it is for the sake of argument. That does not make an inch 2.54 centimeters, though.
Yeah, because of that framework, right? And same thing. Right. If I want to build an objective moral framework, and I say I'm an objective moral person, torturing babies for fun is immoral. That's in my framework. That's perfectly fine to do that, right?
Right.
But to subjectivists, that still may be a moral fact. A subjectivist can say it is torturing babies for fun is immoral, but now it's not an objective fact. It's contingent only because they have a mind, and that the fact comes from the fact that they are weighing in on this and saying that's wrong. It's individualized. That's subjectivism. So both agree that it's wrong. So when you have these theists out there going, well, if you don't have God, you can't say what's right or wrong. Well, bullshit. A subjectivist can say right or wrong. Because Christopher, what determines what is right or wrong? Your actions. Is it normative ethics or meta ethics?
Not
meta ethics. So
yeah,
it's normative ethics, right?
Right. And then within that,
normally what you're going to do, basically, right? What's the normative thing you're going to do in a situation? You're going to plead with consequentialism or something like that. Meta ethics doesn't tell you what you should do.
No,
I mean, I feel like a lot of the time, though, when Christians ask questions like, "Do you believe in objective morality?" what they're really saying is, do you believe that there is a universally true set of moral dictates?
Yeah, well, I think it's more than that. I agree with you, but I think because that's fine if there is. I think what they're saying is, do you believe there's a universally codified dictate that's woven in intrinsically to the universe? And I don't necessarily think that's the case.
To that, I think that you'd have to say no, because it's not woven into the fabric of the universe. Some of it's developed.
I don't know any philosophers that actually thinks that, though. I only hear that from the very weird theists.
Really strong theists like William Lane Craig, and his is weird because he tries saying it's objective morality, but then it actually always becomes subjective because he's a divine command theorist,
which is ethical subjectivity.
Yeah, that's one of the people I was thinking that asked that type of question too.
Yeah, and I've honestly tried to see the argument for divine command theory as ethical objectivism. I really can't see the argument, except for if somebody wants to argue to us it's objective because God commands it. Okay, I can at least get that. But divine command theory to me can only be ethical subjectivism. because it's contingent upon a mind, the mind of God.
So let me, I guess, if I can kind of give you my thought or my position on it, and you, I guess, classify or define what I am based on that. My viewpoint on it is that as far as morals, it is all subjective, period, because it partially what you said as far as being dependent on the mind, but it's depending on our minds. Even if everybody on earth agreed that this thing was bad or immoral, it's still subjective on our mind. We just happen to agree on it.
Yeah, the problem with that is that's this cosmic skeptic argument, and that's what rationality rules just obliterates Alex on. Because what you're doing is, and I gave him this term. I told rationality this because he asked me. I talked to rationality rules a lot about this in private, and a lot of his stuff he agrees on, and he uses for argumentation with Alex. But it's called subjective reductionism, or reductive subjectivism, either or. I just call them subjective reductionism because what it is you're reducing everything down to brain states. But if that's the case, then why isn't 1 + 1 = 2 subjective? It's in your brain.
Because that's a mathematical construct that we made, and it wouldn't exist without our minds, though.
So what? It's objective fact, though. Morality wouldn't exist without us either. We're agents of moral consideration. We're moral agents. Without humans, there would be no morality. Or some other species that have a sense of morality. If the Earth wasn't
without humans wouldn't exist. Does that mean that humans are not real?
The ocean's not real. Polytheist, everybody dive bomb, kill.
Okay, I'm gonna actually admit. So in between when I lost my Christian faith and was transitioning into agnosticism, I actually dabbled in trying to believe polytheism for a while. So
that explains a lot.
And then explains like he and I are on the same page of like several things. That's really funny.
I also just went completely Neoplatonist as well, but
yeah, I'm flirting with that. So yeah.
How do you flirt with Neoplatonism, by the way? And thank you, Rez, for the 20 Australian.
Carefully.
What I miss. We'll catch you up, Rez. Trust me, we'll catch you up. Before we go down the polytheist route, I want to finish this with the why.
I haven't landed on anything like that, but we can have a discussion on that, Steve.
Yeah, sure. But why isn't everything subjective? Because we can build an objective moral framework, just like if we can build a mathematical framework. 1 + 1 = 2 is objective fact because of analytical definitions. Same thing with morality. I can build an objective moral framework that, who cares, is contingent on my mind. Everything exists in our mind anyway. So I'm not going to reduce everything to subjectivity because certain things are objectively true. Even in a hypothetical norm, right? Even with the is-ought fallacy with the Hume's guillotine, I can still do an is-ought in a hypothetical norm. It's the categorical norm that I don't think you can do. But in a hypothetical, I use the example all the time. If I want to run fast, if I want to win a race, I ought to run fast. That's an is from an ought, hypothetically, in a hypothetical normative situation.
So, Steve,
that's always true.
It's I bet that question's coming from that same place of if you can have contradicting objective frameworks, then they must all be functionally subjective because you don't have an absolute framework. And that's, I think...
you know what? That kind of sounds like goals and completeness theorem in a way.
So, Steve, one thing that so you'll have to correct me if where I may be going wrong here. So one thing that I've always thought and had a problem of when we try and establish, say, like 1 + 1 = 2 is objectively true, is that it's only true if we accept the axioms involved.
Sure. Yep.
In which case, doesn't that actually make it subjective?
No.
Well, that's fucking everything.
But yeah, because it's subjective. It's subjective based on the axioms. If your axioms are different from mine, then it is.
That's the thing. That why is morality indifferent?
But if you're going to be talking about objective truth, though, Christopher, if you're talking about objective truth, though, then you should. If we're talking, I think that objective truth would be true from an externalist framework. So it doesn't mean that it's true just on whether or not you accept the axioms. Objectively true would be true regardless of the perspective.
Yeah, and by the way, I wouldn't call axioms subjective. I'll call them arbitrary. There's a difference.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what about, because the way that I view it is if something is going to be objective, it has to be what it is absent our minds.
But you won't be able to verify that with anything.
Yeah, that's
why I think it's all subjective.
Well, no, that's that. Now you fell into the same trap. So, if
you know this as well as I do,
let's say that I believe that reality exists, and I have a coherent framework for that, and someone else says that no, they don't think that reality exists, and they have a coherent framework for that. We can discuss that from realism and idealism. Now, if you look at that and you say, well, the only place that they're disagreeing is on their axioms. That doesn't make whether or not reality exists a subjective thing. Right. There is an objective truth to it. There is an externalist reality to it.
There's also a third party you're not considering, which is someone who will actually say that reality does not exist. Solipsist.
That's what an idealist is. Or if you get a solipsist.
No, an idealist believes that there's reality. It's just reality is generated by the mind.
A mental image, sure. Yeah. Reality doesn't exist in the same sense as a realist, but yeah, I guess you're calling it solipsist that everything is imagined.
Does not believe that there is any reality whatsoever because he cannot even prove that there is anything, even his own mind.
All right. Well, just because there's another one doesn't erase the point. The point is that you can have these three parties or two parties or however other many, because there's more than just these three too. So
monistic idealism or in the mind of God.
Right. I
can play this game too, by the way.
You can go through all different kinds of things, but the difference between them is their axioms. That doesn't make whether or not reality exists or the truth of the matter subjective because there's multiple perspectives.
Right.
That's the point.
It's correct, but then how do we establish, if we're going to say that reality is objective, how do we establish that reality exists? Because if the solipsist doesn't believe that reality exists and doesn't have any axioms whatsoever, then it doesn't even matter.
You're not disagreeing with me. In a game of, Christopher, we're aggressively agreeing.
Yeah, you guys are agreeing with each other, but I think what Christopher wants to get into is more theories of justification.
Yeah. Right. But
how do we justify?
We can get into the theories of justification. I'm talking about his assertion that because there's different explanations, it's therefore subjective. I'm simply saying that's wrong.
I do agree.
If you want to get into the conversation about justification, that's a whole different fucking rabbit hole that doesn't have to do with what he's talking about.
I know. I agree with you there. I agree that that if it's objective, it doesn't matter what your axioms are.
So Christopher, it's like the rules of how you move chess pieces on a chessboard are objective facts, right?
Yes.
So if I use that chessboard to play a game of checkers, it doesn't make the rules of chess subjective now.
Correct. Yeah, it's a perfect way of looking at it. That is an objective framework of the rules. Those are objectively true within the framework of the game of chess, right? So I don't see why people have a hard time with that with morality, because I whenever I've asked somebody, show me why objective morality doesn't exist, do you know how many people have actually provided me a cogent argument? Zero, I think. It's absolutely zero.
But see,
I never try and offer an argument as to why it doesn't exist. I just haven't found an argument I have found convincing that it does exist.
Yeah, and that's a thing. That's a difference, right? I mean, that's right. Not the same thing.
Are we going to get into more people should be solipsists?
He's a solipsist. You don't exist.
No. If there was, I think it was Burton Russell that got a letter from somebody saying that she found solipsism to be very convincing and that she wondered why more people weren't solipsists, which is funny.
Like the sort of thing that Bertrand Russell would get in the mail.
That's what I'm talking about. Is Burton Russell? He got that. He got that from somebody. And it was like, lady, if there is any solipsist, there's only one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the only solipsist that could exist.
But if there's only one solipsist, then they outnumber everybody else, so that's fine.
But that is true, though. If there's only one solipsist, it's me. It can't be you all. You all can't be solipsists.
I can verify that for you, Steve. You are, in fact, the only solipsist.
Thank you. Wait, did I be verified with myself?
Or you're the crazy one, Steve.
Well, actually, you see, if someone sent that letter to me, though, I'd say, well, there are no solipsists. Because a solipsist can't even prove that he exists.
Well, you know what?
We went through that yesterday because you have to beg the question in order to do it.
Wait, could I make the argument there are no solipsists? Because if there was a solipsist, I would be the only one. Therefore, I'm not a solipsist because I know I'm not a solipsist because I believe I exist. Therefore, there cannot be any solipsists.
Exactly.
God, that's weird. What the hell do we do?
Solipsists are outnumbered unless they're right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's two options. Either they believe they exist and they're not a solipsist, or they don't believe they exist, and if they don't exist, there's no solipsist because there's no one to exist.
Exactly. That's it. By the way, Eric's going, this is why I don't read in philosophy, because I feel like this.
Because I swear this has like no impact on my life and would change anything for me.
Well,
So like,
the impact that it has is when you're saying that morality is subjective because there's multiple constructs of it. I don't think that that's true. You can have, like, I'm not necessarily somebody who fights tooth and nail for objective morality, but the reason being that people disagree isn't a good one.
I agree. My problems always come down to the justification.
And since we're being all pendants right here, we didn't disprove hard solipsism only for the fact that actual hard solipsism is the fact that I have no way to know where the external minds exist, right? And you guys have the same problem. So I can't prove or disprove that. So we didn't solve the problem of solipsism.
No.
I mean, if two hard solipsists are in a room arguing, do they just argue about which one of them is to blame for the
truth? Isn't that like any other argument? I'm real. No, I'm real.
You're my imagination. No, you're mine.
Well, you know what's funny is to be a solipsist. I could actually be a solipsist, and I don't have to think that you guys are all my mind. I could think that you guys are automatons, or if you guys are like zombies, AI. There's a whole bunch of different things that not necessarily have to be.
Don't get Ocean started on the P zombies.
P zombies.
But does Steve exist?
You definitely are a P zombie.
No,
I mean, I've used P zombies like 3 times before, dude. Like
a god. That's my opinion. I mean, look.
What I want to know, Christopher, you keep stealing this from me. I want to know if Osman agrees, like understands what I'm talking about. When I'm like, no, you can't do that with morality.
Well, because I guess the part where I disagree with is. I get 1 + 1 = 2 because we defined it 2 = 2. I get that the rules of a chess game or the rules of a chess game are going to be what they are because we defined it as such. But with morality, moral actions, moral pronouncements, because so many, I mean, there can be disagreements there, and I get where you're saying that's not good enough for it to not have an objectiveness to it. But I still feel that it's still dependent on our minds, and not every mind is going to agree. So it still ends up being subjective.
Oh, I see.
What if it's not dependent on our minds?
But you see,
because you're bringing up the chess game and some of other things. Say, pardon?
Ocean. Then what would it be dependent on if not for our minds?
There could be a truth to the universe about it. If we look at it in a Platonic sense, it could be something that pre-exists.
Right, but until we can justify that.
Oh, whether or not it's justified doesn't matter.
But
it could be true.
Ocean, you didn't catch you didn't catch the change of terminology there from subjective to another version of subjective.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to debate with Charity here.
Okay. Well, yeah, but it kind of throws it off when somebody does that. Fair enough. Go on.
I think that what we're talking about is essentially just like it exists outside the mind versus it exists inside the mind. I think that's the dichotomy that we're looking at.
That's the way we're using it for the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's different ways of doing that. I'm looking at, and there's also objective in another sense, which like if you go into like a more Kantian objective, which is still a construct, but it's objective. Okay. Am I right on that?
Can you explain that?
Maybe.
Yeah, I would assume that you can have an objective construct. Like, I mean, so far as I can tell,
it's basically viewing morality like math.
The ability to make
I could be misunderstanding it, but
then their actions are just inherently amoral. They're without morality, right? If they can't make a moral determination, but morality comes in based on people who are able to actually apply a moral framework. And so in that sense, it's entirely a construct.
I think that might be the direction I was thinking of. Kant's not easy to understand.
I don't think
in case anybody's.
Oh, Kant is a pain in the fucking ass.
Understand Kant.
But my understanding of it is that he's starting with a couple of axioms and that appear to be true, and then attempting to figure out the rest of objective morality through assuming just those basic axioms. And so you could say, as a very, very basic example, you could say that we could, if we can agree that harm not is an objective moral value, or moral virtue, then you can mathematically figure out basically the rest of morality from an objective standpoint. And it's, from that point, it becomes objective. But it's objective based on the axiom. Now, you could have the axiom wrong. Yeah. What's the right axiom? If you want to, if that's, but again, when we're talking about whether or not reality exists, we're still trying to figure out what the right axiom is on that, and that's been in heavy philosophical debate for some time.
Yeah, but it all boils down to this.
Thanks, Descartes.
Yeah, and by the way, it took me forever just to figure out noumenon from phenomenon. So fuck Kant, because I had to have 4 people explain that to me one time years ago. I
can't understand him, but
dude, noumenon was harder for me to figure out. I don't know why.
Hey, at least
complicated. I was so overanalyzing it.
At least he wasn't Kierkegaard. Fucking Kierkegaard did. Kierkegaard doesn't make sense in English, Danish, or German.
Well, he was just a bitter person. He was not very. I mean, Kierkegaard was just angry at the world. And
oh, I know. I'm sitting here reading through Fear and Trembling right now. It's just.
He was actually. I think he was kind of more nihilistic than Nietzsche in some ways.
Oh yeah. And it's really funny because he's Christian too.
Yeah. But unlike some Christians, he had a lot. Well, Nietzsche was religious too.
Yeah,
Nietzsche was an atheist. He wasn't an atheist. He was for a lot of time a theist. I don't know if he ever left that, but he talked a lot about theism. I mean, that's what he was upset about when his God is dead. I mean, he wasn't trying to promote atheism. He was actually a theist at the time, if I remember correctly. I'm not a big Nietzsche fan, so I haven't read too much Nietzsche. But
Hegel is terrible too.
Well, I've tried to read the Hegelian dialectics. It's a bunch of nonsensical manifesto, commie, Marxist, pinko. I don't know.
I've read it in both. I've read the dialectics in both English and in German.
Do they make sense?
I can tell you, they don't make sense in either.
Okay, well then I don't feel so bad because I literally have tried to sludge my way through that garbage, and it just seems like all he does is trying to promote governmental rhetoric and that everything's benefits. The government is your lord and master kind of thing. I don't know.
My professor when
Spinoza was interesting.
Oh, Spinoza's a trip.
But how would you explain the Hegelian dialectics to somebody? Because again, I sludged through it and I just have a hard time.
I couldn't.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
I can't. The only way I could describe it is the way that my professor did. When he first was having us read it, or read one of the first ones, he was like, I'm not going to test you over this, and the reason I'm not going to test you over this is because I hate Hegel, you'll hate Hegel, Hegel is trash, no philosopher in the world likes Hegel.
Hegel's like the male version of Ayn Rand. I mean, it's just I hear somebody say they're an objectivist, and I don't mean like moral objectivist, but I mean like objectivism for the Ayn Rand type. I'm like, oh, I can't. I just can't. I read Ayn Rand, and I wanted to die. It's just the most boring. She can write for pages and pages and pages and pages and say absolutely fucking nothing.
Especially the diatribe.
I just started reading Ayn Rand, and I have to agree. At the same time, I'd still rather read her than fucking Hegel.
Well, like I said,
honestly, I'd rather read her than Voltaire. Actually, Voltaire had nothing to say whatsoever, nothing original in his brain.
What?
I hate Voltaire.
Well, let me ask this.
Voltaire was like one of the most bitter, but he was cutting in his scathing. The way he would tear down people.
Yeah, but he also advocated for hearing people out as well.
Yeah, but he had a way with words. I don't know how much was original, but when I read Voltaire, it was very scathing.
Yeah, it's really scathing. But honestly, my opinion is that's all he is. It's just a scathing, grumpy old guy.
So is Ocean. We're ignoring Eric. I'm sorry, Eric. We're podcasting, and I don't mean to.
Yes. All right. So when Ocean was saying there can be objective constructs that we can make for morality, can you give me an example of a construct that we can say is actually objective as far as morality is concerned, not like mathematics?
Not without agreeing on the axioms.
Yeah,
but
right. Like benefits would be an axiom. That's called your metaphysical grounding, or your grounding to the objective moral framework.
The problem is that we don't have a construct for identifying anything in the world that doesn't have axioms that we have to agree on before moving forward.
I agree. Yeah.
And so if you're saying that we need to get past that in order to consider morality something that's worth talking about from an objective standpoint, then we got to throw all of our knowledge out the window, including whether or not reality exists in the first place.
But yes, I don't think we need to do that, though.
I mean, right? I don't either. But that's my criticism of, because it's funny that with morality, it is common to have this requirement of it, whereas you don't have this requirement of most other things that we consider to be true. But with morality, we do. And not we, but people generally. It's something that comes up. That no, morality is subjective unless you can provide me with this. And that's like the evidence for the axiom, the hard certainty of the justification for the axiom.
I think there's a poor
and I think that there's a frustration that I have with it because it seems to be a response to Christians saying it's from God and having that certainty, and then response to skepticism from that winds up in a global skepticism about morality in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's poisoned a lot of the discussion.
Oh, we couldn't agree with you more.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you there. I don't agree. I mean, I can't agree that we don't apply that level of skepticism to everything. I mean, I was a solipsist for the longest time, and then I went idealist.
I'm not saying we as in everybody in here,
but yeah,
I'm not applying it to myself because I'm sitting here arguing it.
Yeah,
but,
I think it.
Here I am.
And to a degree, I think it also we shouldn't have to question the axioms to everything. We don't need to question that axioms that we can agree upon about reality.
Right. I mean, why not have common ground, right? I mean, do I want to start every conversation with somebody as, hey, do you believe reality is real? No, I honestly don't. Now,
I mean,
again, if somebody wants to say that they have an objective moral framework, that's fine. I'm not going to say, well, you can't have that. But there are people out there who say, well, objective morality doesn't exist. But again, they have no argument for it. They've just been told by other atheists that objective morality can exist. Because I think Ocean made the most brilliant point, which I've said the same thing because I say brilliant things every so often, that it is something that's a carryover from the theist argument because they are trying to relate this to a deity. And as much as I talk to people and as much as I have people to explain to people, you don't need a deity for objective morality. And matter of fact, I don't think positing a God helps you with an objective morality framework.
You can wind up with all the same problems.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anywhere.
So, what example can you give of that, though? Like, as far as we're coming to an agreement on an axiom for a moral pronouncement?
Okay, like harms and benefits. I mean, do you think that as a society, it is more beneficial to have benefits for people or to harm them?
I mean, in the society I currently inhabit, yes.
Okay.
But I could see somebody conflicting and disagreeing with that in a whole different.
They disagree.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can have people. People believe that there's a flat Earth. Does that make them? Does that make whether or not? Does that make the shape of the Earth?
Well, that can be proven.
No, hold on a minute. No, it can't. Not if you're going to be coming at them from disagreeing on the axioms of whether or not reality exists in the first place, right? If you're going to, because you can run into all the same problems with whether or not the shape of the Earth. If you have axiom disagreements.
He's right though. He's not wrong.
Oh, I know. I'm so flat earthed out. I just want to bash my skull in.
I just bring it up as an example of something being obviously wrong. I don't want to start a fucking flat earth debating. Even though I have trolled as a flat earther a couple of times. But
we all know Ocean's.
If you disagree,
dumpster fire, yes.
If you disagree on the axioms, you're still going to have the same problem. So it's like whether or not somebody disagrees is irrelevant to whether or not there's an objective truth to it.
Right.
Well, then how do you determine who's right and wrong if you got two sets of people that disagree?
And now we're back to the verifying axioms thing.
How do you determine 1 + 1 = 2? You look at the axioms. You understand?
Yeah, but that's something totally different than, at least the way that I'm looking at it. A construct that
I'll curveball with you on this and say that this conversation is a good legitimizing for polytheism, but
oh my god. Or I should say, oh my god.
And I think Christopher knows where I'm going with it.
By the way,
I know exactly where you're going.
I just saw a meme that I said, oh my god, Ocean's got to see this meme, and I realized you're already tagged on it. Damn it.
Yeah, that happens to me.
Necromancing versus necromancing.
Yes.
That was cute. I was like, oh, Ocean's gonna love this. God damn it.
Oh, you found it. Yep. Steve, have you appreciated my necromancy puns?
I love your. Yeah. I mean, especially the fact when it comes to like raising kids.
They're deadly.
Yeah.
No, as a necromancer, it is very controversial to raise children.
Yes. I love that.
Puns are the lowest form of humor.
I love not when they're good.
By lowest, you mean highest.
No, I mean like their actual cancer.
Actual cancer.
It is objectively true that puns are terrible.
We disagree on axioms.
God.
See, now where
understanding this, that it depends on your axioms. Again, we might have somebody say that 1 + 1 does not equal 3, and you say, well, here's the axioms. Well, they can disagree with the axioms all the fuck they want, but I don't give a shit. My math to me is math. If Dave says, well, your axioms suck, okay, well, in certain types of mathematics, you can do that. Actually, you actually can literally pick your axioms.
Abstract algebra.
Yeah, like axiom of choice, axiom of essentiality, axiom of reflexivity. There's a whole bunch of axioms in ZFC theory. And so you can pick and choose kind of the ones you want, especially the axiom of choice. And when it comes to real mathematics, though, those are not up for discussion. Those are Peano's axioms. You have to accept those if you want to do real mathematics. So in that case, Eric, all you would say is, well, hey, David, you think 1 + 1 = 3. You're rejecting real mathematics. Okay, fuck off. What do you want from me? That's all I would do when it comes to objective morality. If I have an objective moral framework and somebody says, well, you're wrong. Okay, well, so what? According to my axioms, that it's better to not harm somebody but give them benefits. I'm not wrong.
Right. Where I start questioning things is not really the axiom, is how you define things. What constitutes a benefit? There's one philosopher, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he defined it in terms of, what was it? Increasing both health and
Ademoya.
Health and what was the other one? Brian I think saw this discussion earlier.
Human flourishing, which is Ademoya.
No, it's like health and joy. We'll say that, like happiness, health and happiness.
Yeah.
And so, and one problem I brought up is that, okay, let's talk about a masochist.
But
they get joy out of harming themselves.
But again, that one person has different.
They just need to pair up with a good sadist.
Yeah.
Well, the problem I see though is that how is that that is both
problem, because if they think pain is pleasure, then they're not really being in pain; they're being in pleasure. So it's not really harming them.
Well, no, it is, because it is physically harming their bodies.
So is that physically? So does a tattoo physically harm your body? But is that considered to be immoral? No.
I mean, unless you read the Bible.
Okay, fair enough. So I would be going to hell. I'm wearing mixed fabrics right now. So
yeah, so would I.
Res says is this $10 subjective or subjective?
Let's debate it.
Yeah, let's debate it.
I think that currency is a ruse.
I gotta go get some beer. By the way, I do want people to know I thank you so much for your super chats on your Patreon. It went to good use. My computer, my laptop.
Straight to the beer.
No. I'm going to buy beer. Yes, but my laptop took a dive. It was old. It was
shit, son.
It was a ThinkPad. No, excuse me. It was a what was it? Latitude E4300, which is dual core, older than dirt kind of thing, right? It was given to me, right? So I've had a very long time, but the hard drive finally went out on it, and so I was looking to get another computer, because I have to have a laptop, because I can't sit in this chair all the time and type stuff out. I have to lay down, and so I was looking at one at Best Buy. It was like $250 or something, and it was a dual core. But then Kyle said, "Hey, no, Steve, let me find you something." And he went on Amazon, found me a ThinkPad, a T430 i5 ThinkPad for $180. Can't go wrong. I got to tell you, it's faster than any computer I've ever owned in my life. I've never had an i5. I mean, this thing that I'm using now is a quad core, but it's still like probably 8-year-old motherboard. So thank you, because I actually bought something with what I had, and I was like, I got to get a computer. So I went to really good use. So I appreciate it.
Okay, so Steve, off topic.
That's a good computer, isn't it? i5.
Yeah, i5s are pretty good. I'm running.
Someone just sent me a message that someone brought up masochists in the morality argument. Did somebody do that? Did it?
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Bad.
So, Steve, off-topic question.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on Machiavelli?
I'm not a Machiavellian, and I think it's part of the Dark Triad. Because the dark
He's a
triad
suck-up.
Yeah, Dark Triad is Machiavellianism, narcissism, and what's the third one? Oh my God!
It's wetting the bed.
It's wetting the bed. Yeah.
That's the other triangle. Sorry, shit.
No, what is the Dark Triangle? Is Machiavellianism? Oh my God! I hate this. I hate this.
Also, another side question.
Oh,
have you read?
Oh
yeah, have you read Leviathan, Hobbes?
Psychopathy.
No.
Psychopathy.
Yeah.
I actually started reading Hobbes' Leviathan, and I got bogged down. I actually printed it out.
Yeah.
And bound it together as a book. It is humongous.
Yeah, it is a trip.
The biggest book I ever tried to read was the Ranta book.
Oh Jesus.
Oh God.
Why
did you try that?
Steve, I've got you beat. I have read the whole of Matthew Henry's commentary of the Bible, which is 6 volumes. Takes up about half a bookshelf.
I could never bother with that. I can't even read the Bible. It's so boring to me anymore.
Matthew Henry is even more boring than the Bible.
It was like when I read the Book of Mormon. I read the Book of Mormon like almost three.
Wait, what 6 books are taking up half a bookshelf? What bookshelf are you using?
It's a small bookshelf, but I mean,
I imagine it's a small bookshelf.
But I mean, each volume is about the size of.
It's half a bookshelf. Here it is. It's on my desk.
What's the biggest book you've ever read that didn't take
It's a bookshelf that holds 3 books.
Biggest what?
I think the biggest ones I ever read, if I remember correctly, could have been Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Those were pretty big.
Those were great. I love those books.
Oh, brilliant books. Oh, the Psychoanalyst. Yeah, whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah, longest series I've ever read would have to be Christopher Tolkien's Histories of Middle Earth, or actually no, I should take it back. No, the Dune series.
The Dune series?
Dune, yeah. I have read every single Dune book.
I didn't read the last ones, but I read the first 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah, there's about 20 plus.
By the way, the first book, nothing like the movie. I'm sorry, the book was a masterpiece. The movie.
Hey. Okay, I'm gonna have to admit that I actually saw the movie first, and that's what got me into Dune.
Well, so did I. I saw
which version
I love
of the movie? There's 2.
Sting version.
Sting.
Yeah.
I also love the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
I like the William Hurt version.
Yeah, the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
Oh, is that what that was? It's like it's like a 6-hour movie.
Yeah, it was a Sci-Fi Channel series.
Yeah, miniseries.
Okay. They actually also did a sequel where they also covered Dune Messiah and Children of Dune as well.
But the book series is the mythos that goes into that book is just amazing.
And it is philosophical as fuck.
Oh hell yes, it is. Like what are those sisters called? The Sisters of the Spice.
Bene Gesserit.
Bene Gesserit. Yep.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's just love that stuff. It was great.
Oh yeah, it's absolute genius. Like
it's David Lynch. I didn't know that.
Oh,
I'd have to
poor David
take
Lynch.
a look at that. David Lynch did the 84 Dune movie.
He got fucked over so bad.
So she says we all can come over and read them, or she can read to us.
Christy, I have almost every single Isaac Asimov book, and I have 30 of them in first edition hardcover.
He was like one of my favorite authors as a kid. I, Robot, Fountainhead. I loved Isaac Asimov. The guy was just the all-time greatest writer, I think, or one of the greatest all-time writers.
Oh yeah.
Why is Christy not in here?
Let's bring Christy in.
Yeah, she goes in everybody else's hangouts. She doesn't come in mine.
But I actually have iRobot signed by Isaac Asimov.
Before or after he died?
Before.
Okay.
I bought a copy off of this off of a guy who was bringing it into a bookstore, and it was just gonna give it to the bookstore to sell. And I was just like, I'll take that off your hands.
That is amazing.
He only wanted like $15 for it.
Did he know that it was signed?
Yeah, he knew it was signed. He had no idea what its worth was.
Wow.
I gave him 50.
How much do you value that? Worth $100 at least, I think, wouldn't it be?
Oh, more than that. A first edition of iRobot alone will run around about $200 or $300.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's be a few $100. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But just to have it, I mean, I wouldn't even sell it. I'd be like, I got first edition iRobot, bitches.
Yeah. I also have a first edition of the Silmarillion, American edition.
I love. Don't get me wrong. I loved Lord of the Rings series. Read it multiple times. Was in the play.
Oh yeah.
But I can't read the Silmarillion.
It's like reading the Bible.
Yeah, it really is. I don't want to fill my head with that mythos. I'm sure it's brilliant, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful.
Which
but
book?
I completely understand. Silmarillion, Middle Earth.
Oh yeah,
I have.
feel like I'm. It's that would be an undertaking for me. It's probably similar to a lot of stuff I've already read. To be fair,
I have an entire bookshelf completely devoted to nothing but Tolkien. Tolkien is my all-time favorite author, but followed closely by Frank Herbert and then Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein. Let me think. I've got so many that I like. Oh, Philip K. Dick.
I was going to say George R.R. Martin.
And Jordan Peterson.
I love George R.R. Martin.
Peterson.
I love Game of Thrones and everything, but it doesn't rank up there, not even in my top 10. Purely because George R.R. Martin, he's a great writer, but his books they don't actually leave me thinking about anything. I like the story. It's a really good story. It's a really engaging story. But when I read Dune, I get so much philosophical thought out of that book. And if I read Philip K. Dick, it's nothing but basically Neoplatonist and not a bunch of crazy philosophical stuff going on all the time.
Would you take the spice? Just remember, you eat spice once, you're hooked on it for life.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I totally take the
I
spice.
didn't know that when I watched the movie.
Yeah, but you get blue eyes, man. Blue eyes.
Yeah.
That glow.
Well, I think that's after a while, but you try spice once, you're automatically addicted to it.
Have you read The Road to Dune? Yes, I've read it. I have it in hardcover, first edition.
Osman, how you doing?
I'm just listening. You know?
Arthur C. Clarke is, I'd say, my fifth on that list. Ray Bradbury, he's down there. I'm not a big Bradbury fan.
Oh, I read Methuselah's Children. I read End of Innocence. What is it? Childhood End. I've read The Martian Chronicles. That was Ray Bradbury. I used to read all that kind of stuff. Robert A. Heinlein, loved his short stories like Moon is a Harsh Mistress and Blow Ups Happen. By the way, I can't talk very loud because I have to keep it down now. But I'm putting a shout out to Jim. He's driving Uber and he's making his passengers listen to our show. So thank you, passengers. Thank you for taking Uber with Jim. Don't drive drunk. Jim wrote. So he's good. But to his passengers, thank God that they have Uber so they're not driving drunk because it's Halloween night, right?
And Steve manages to pry that foot out of his mouth.
I can't talk very loud. I just got chastised for speaking loud, so I gotta.
Oh, stop being chastised.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore.
A nasty email from landlord.
Oh boy.
It wasn't too bad, but
so
I'm gonna soundproof my room eventually.
That'll be fun. You can put up those little sound foam carts as well. Those help with the soundproofing a little bit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like corrugated square things. Yeah.
Or create your own sound booth, Steve.
I need one. And then my mic broke. I'm on my backup headset, so I got to fix that tomorrow.
Sounds good though.
For Hangouts, it's good. For streaming, not so much.
Oh, I can understand that. I was still interested in Osman's thoughts on the damn conversation. We keep running away. The conversation.
I mean, I totally get it. I mean,
fucking killing this guy.
In your realm of what you guys enjoy.
Not really. We don't enjoy any of this. We just do it.
Okay, so are we?
It sounds like it.
I'm not. I'm here to yell at Steve.
Okay. So are we clear on agnosticism, atheism versus theism?
That would done. That's
I can totally agree with it when it comes to if we agree on the definitions we're using in that conversation. That's not the problem. I tend to use the colloquial definition because I talk to a majority of people that don't do this.
Right. I'm fully with you. I fully sympathize. I understand. I'm just now coming out of colloquial definition only. I mean, that's all I've known. So it's like, it's a new thought process. It's almost jarring in a way.
No? I mean,
getting it as an atheist, getting into Steve's version, like definition of atheism, is the equivalent of being saved by Jesus. It's basically the same thing. You adopt a new definition, and then you are born again into atheism.
Well, that's only if I'm going to be talking to you guys.
Okay, Steve. Listen, remember we talked about discussing hard. Excuse me. Arguments for hard atheism or strong atheism. Can we do that on the next hangout?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to. I was talking to some guy.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that consider themselves soft atheists that are probably actually like hard as fuck.
Oh, I think so. Okay, but Ocean, here's the thing. Like earlier, Eric was nice enough to oblige, answering yes, no, or I don't know, right? And a lot of people, they don't want to do that, and I don't understand that. I'm happy if somebody says, "Steve, can you just do yes, no, or I don't know," so we can get to the crux of the matter.
Eric, is that Osman?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
And I'm fine.
I've just been calling you Osman. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It could be Osmani, but I have no idea. Anyway, so Eric, but go ahead, continue. Steve.
I was just going to say that. Answering yes, no, or I don't know really kind of gets to the crux of the matter, and he was gracious enough to do that. But a lot of these soft atheists, I guarantee it, many of them, if I got a chance to actually ask them direct questions where they can answer the questions without kind of dodging them like they always seem to do, you would find that a lot of them are strong atheists, and they just don't realize it. That happened to Ned Tuxley.
Steve, do you know what it is? It's they're afraid of falling into a word trap, just like theists do, and they sense a trap because more than likely they've set that trap themselves. So it's kind of projecting in a way. They automatically assume you're trying a word salad to trap them into a position.
Some of those words.
Okay, but
sometimes you get an atheist that thinks it's a word salad trap from a theist, when the theist is actually a philosophically inclined theist that's trying to help.
Right.
Exactly.
Hey, no, you're not. No,
or they don't realize that the person they're talking to may be an atheist or an agnostic. In my case, and they just call me a fucking theist.
Isn't that always
I've had that happen.
But here's the thing. Look at.
I've been called all kinds of things.
People should know me by now. I've never tried to trap anybody. You don't ever see me do it unless maybe with a pre-supper. Sure, I'll screw them over because they're just.
I had to talk to DD last night.
DD I'll wreck, right? Because he's just.
But he has mods.
Did you talk to you? Did you talk to DD?
Who is that?
To DD?
I talked to him last night.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool. For a second, I thought that Steve had.
No, he won't talk to me. I think.
No, he muted me quick.
Yeah, I think he's scared to death of me. I asked him to come on the Non Sequitur show, and he ran away like a little coward.
Oh, that's because he is a coward, Steve.
Do you believe? I was actually surprised. I didn't realize he was that big a coward.
He's a coward.
He wants to go after a Bionic Dance.
He won't have a conversation. If you had a Non Sequitur show with him and Bionic Dance, he would probably actually agree to that. But
okay, come on.
If you put him on equal footing. He's been gunning for Bionic Dance for a long time.
Yeah, but that's not
he said he wanted to go after her.
He would annihilate her.
Say what?
He would annihilate her.
I know.
Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah.
I was just saying, if you wanted him on the Non Sequitur show, put Bionic Dance out there.
No.
He would bite. And then maybe he'll have a good experience, and then he'll come back for somebody who's a little bit more equipped. But if, for example, if he's not going to go up against somebody who actually knows their shit, he won't go up against me. He won't go up against anybody else that's in that little group. You know what I mean?
Pal talkers.
People the pal talkers. A lot of them, they know their shit.
He won't do that. He'll go against me if I go into his room. But
if he can mute you.
That's
what he did to me.
He has to be able to mute you in order for him to even talk to. Like he's
never been in here, not once. He's a coward.
All right, guys that are in the live chat that don't know what we're talking about, there's a pre-supper that's a bit of a bully that's been running around Discord.
A bit?
Yeah, he's a lot of a bully. And there's also a group of people that really know how to fucking grind his gears, if you know what I mean. And he just, whenever they show up in a room, he'll disappear unless he has mod control, and then he'll kick them or ban them or whatever. And I'm among these people that he'll just eliminate because I had a blowout with him at one point where
why would I want to go talk to him?
I argued for Odin and it was better than his pre-supping shit.
Yeah, but why would I want to go talk to him in his room? I know how he plays this game.
And that's the reason why I don't either. I'll lurk when he's talking just because I think it's funny to see atheists we get like the atheists that don't know what they're doing go up against them and then they get surprised.
I would watch that.
Or they know that there's I would
enjoy that actually.
It's funny when you're in a room with Darth Dawkins and 5 like 1.0 atheists that have no idea what they're doing.
Darth Dawkins?
And it's just
Evolution Falls.
I had a debate with him 2 years ago.
Oh.
I'm sorry. on his server, and I did not realize who he was at that time until
on
after
his server.
that.
You wanted to what, Atheist Hotline or whatever the fuck it is?
No, we did a Google Hangout. He came across me. So I used to be a big supporter of Dater Lucum, if you know who he is.
Yeah, we know who Dater Lucum is.
Okay. A lot of people I've always asked have no idea who he is, but I used to be a big supporter. I was actually on one of his live streams. I don't know if it's even still up there or anything, but on that live stream,
Dater Lucum still exists.
No, yeah, I know he still exists, but I don't know if the live streams are still up because they were gone last time I looked at his channel from a few years ago. But Darth Dawkins was on there, and he kept challenging Dater to a debate. And he kept going off and off and off on about challenging Dater, and then said he was going to challenge me, and then I accepted it, and then we did a Google Hangout thing, and he just was a piece of shit the whole time.
Surprise.
Well, I mean, he's still like that. He's just an ass to people.
Yeah.
Steve, check your Facebook messages.
But unlike, Psy 10, I can have a great conversation with. I'll run Psy into the ground, and he knows it. But he'll just talk. I mean, we have great conversations.
I still can't wrap my head around that, Steve. How?
I don't know.
Psy 10 always just comes off really just nasty.
Oh, that's cute. Who is that? Darn's Greatest Hits, dude?
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's Age of Ultron, right?
No, that's Thanos.
Thanos.
It's Darth Dawkins as Thanos. No, Thanos was. Well, I guess he was.
Yeah,
but that image is from Infinity War.
Infinity War. That's what I was thinking. Infinity Wars. Yeah.
Age of Ultron. The main enemy in that is Ultron.
I got him confused, but yeah, okay. Infinity Wars. Where he's trying to collect the stones.
Yeah. Right, and he's turned all the stones into Discord servers.
I wish I could show that for people to see. That's brilliant. Anyways, but yeah, Dark is this. He'll never come into here with us hanging out here. This would be his worst nightmare. If Jack Inkstrike was here, it'd just be the coup de grace. He would be pissing himself. Although he does talk to Jack recently. I did go to Discord about a month ago or something to talk to Jack, and Dar was happy to be there, and they were talking. Since when did that happen?
Well, as soon as Jack asks a question, he runs.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll engage with him for a couple of minutes just to show the server that he's willing to talk to this. I mean, that he's like, a reasonable guy or whatever. And then he'll start freaking out about how, this guy's been stalking me for 17 years,
Does he not realize he's just outmatched? Completely and utterly outmatched.
I think that he realizes that. He just doesn't want anybody else to know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think
because as soon as they start asking questions,
I think it's the same thing that I think that Psy 10 does when he says he won't discuss the Bible with a non-believer. Yeah. He knows he'll be outmatched completely if he does.
Fair enough. I agree with you.
I still kind of want to debate Psy 10.
Oh man, I'm starting.
I don't because Psy 10 just always comes off really arrogant and nasty every time I see him.
He's on a trip right now. When he gets back from his trip, I'll join us.
Anybody else following Frank Turek?
No.
I gave up following Frank Turek.
See, I just gave up on these like Christian apologists. I just don't. I don't care about them anymore. Like there was a point when I really did. I gave a shit. Now the only one that I even kind of give a shit about is Jeff Durbin, just because I think that his style is interesting. Jeff Durbin. He's the head of he's the pastor at Apologia Church, and which is a terrible name for. But anyway, he's
that's fine.
He does a lot of street preacher stuff as well.
Okay. Do you have a link to anything of his that you could throw in the Google Hangout chat?
Yeah, I'll do that. There's a link to his Apologia on YouTube is his spot. But the only reason why I follow him is just because I think that I'm interested in his street engagements, because what he does, and this is what a lot of these kind of guys do, is that they'll have a street engagement with somebody who's unprepared and stupid, and they'll start just like throwing these, standard Christian arguments that we've all heard a million times before, but a lot of times they haven't. It's part of the same problem that I have with street epistemology, but that's beside the point. That's what he does, and I think that the footage of it is interesting.
Well, as long as he's slightly interesting, I'll give him a look. I just put a screenshot of Frank Turek's latest post in the chat, in the Google Hangouts chat. Wow.
Yeah, here's the. You put a screenshot of what?
Frank Turek's Facebook post. It's in the Google Hangout. If you look in the
Hangout. That's the Google Hangout chat. You want me to post that? Hold on.
Yes.
Hangout. So there's like a million chats whenever someone says post it in the chat, which you know this. So let me take a look at what he's talking about.
Yeah, the one we're in now. Keep it simple.
Right, but that's the one we're in now is a window on my fucking computer. So, all right, I'm posting Jeff Durbin's shit in there too. Who says the stories? There's proof. 5 archaeology books every Christian should read. The stories recorded in the Bible are not myth, but real events. Okay. There's a lot of events in the Bible that are real, but
real as in verbatim. There's a difference,
right? And I might disagree with that. I don't even hold that for my own. Like, there's like as Germanic polytheists, there are like the sagas and the Eddas. I don't hold them as being word for word true, which I think is an odd standard to hold. But I guess if Christians have a perfect God, then they have to hold that standard, right?
I guess he learned nothing from Christopher Hitchens' slap.
When did these guys ever? I mean, they're so. I had a disillusioning moment at one point where we can sit here and call these guys dishonest and all this shit, but it's Blair White, I think is her name, did a really interesting video on this kind of stuff when it comes to like specifically conservative pundits, where she said that she'd had lunch with a lot of the other people that are conservative pundits in LA. A lot of them live there, and because that's how they can, best work with media types and all that shit. And she said that in her meetings with a lot of them, a lot of them confessed that they don't actually believe the stuff that they say. And
who are you talking about? The politicians?
No, like not people like the Ann Coulter and Candace Owen types. I don't know about them specifically.
Okay. Oh,
but,
no,
pundits.
I fully agree.
But and when you get into like people like Frank Turek and that shit, that's the same kind of guy. Like that, he's a pundit. He's not a fucking. He's not an honest interlocutor. He's a pundit.
Okay, I was going to ask. Do you honestly think Frank Turek he doesn't actually believe what he says? Kind of like Eric Hovind.
Oh, okay, so
okay, I'm gonna say
I don't think that Ken Ham believes what he says, but I don't. Frank Turek is somebody who I don't know enough of his body of work in order to really say, but there's some of them that I think do. Like with Jeff Durbin, Jeff Durbin comes off as one of the reasons why I follow him is he comes off as very sincere. Whether or not he actually agrees with everything that he's saying, I can't actually verify. But he sounds sincere. He seems sincere, and that could be just a skill of his. He may be a good actor. And some of these guys are good actors. Like Ken Ham, I don't think is a great actor. I think Ken Ham just comes off as a buffoon.
Okay, well, maybe a buffoon, but
Eric,
honestly,
in the case of Eric Hovind, by the way, I think he does legitimately believe what he's talking about.
I don't.
I've been interacting with Eric for years now.
I think that Eric Hovind believed what he was talking about 5 years ago.
Right. I was going to say, according to Aaron Raw, when he had a discussion with Eric Hovind, basically Eric said, hey, we should just loosen up. We're kind of in the same game here. We're
I've said that kind of stuff to people, and I legitimately believe the stuff that I say. But when you to an extent, the debate conversation is a game. That there is a chess game that's being played.
Well, but
that's true regardless of whether or not you actually believe what's being discussed.
Here's what the question should be, because I think this is more important. Eric Hovind will not change his position, bar none. No matter how much evidence.
Right. That's what I'm saying about Eric Hovind. If he winds up being convinced that if he becomes an atheist, he's going to be in the closet about it. He's going to stay his thing.
Right. Exactly.
Same with what's his name? Lou Engle or whatever the fuck. Like any of those guys, like they're not going to publicly change their
bread
faith.
And butter. Yeah, no way. That would be suicide.
I don't think it'd be, honestly, I don't think it would be suicide for Eric. And the reason I don't think it'd be suicide for Eric is because if Eric came out atheist, so many different organizations would be trying to pick him up.
Here's what I think.
He would become a spokesperson for a deconversion.
You know what?
There's a different motivation there. I think that Eric Hovind doesn't like atheists and he likes Christians.
Correct.
That's the thing there. He's on the side of Christians.
Okay.
Because he likes.
Let me.
Now, maybe he legitimately believes everything, but if he decided, if there was a point where he didn't anymore, I think he would still like Christians more than atheists, and therefore stay on.
I mean, I'm gonna be completely fair. Is that most of the time when I find that I like Christians that I talk with more than I like atheists most of the time.
I often am in the same position.
You know what? I can't stand any of you guys really, so it really doesn't matter to me anymore.
Damn it.
But one thing I wanted to note towards Brian is a very easy explanation of why Eric would also say that is from the way I watch when I watch Arn debate. He does take it exceedingly serious, and he is not afraid of characterizing anyone that disagrees with him as an
Arn
idiot.
Is a force to be reckoned with. Okay.
Well,
but here's the thing. I don't care who I talk to. I don't care if they're a theist. I don't care if they're an atheist. All I give a shit if they're an honest interlocutor, right?
Yeah.
All I give a shit about, and I can tell, I've done this enough. I can tell within minutes if somebody is an honest interlocutor, or if they're just fucking wasting my time, just want to make assertion after assertion. And theists do it, atheists do it. It doesn't matter. I can tell who really wants to have honest inquiry, who wants to have good discussions, right, wrong, or different. They can disagree, agree. I don't give a fuck. As long as they're honest about it and their positions, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
So you guys, everyone here is honest about the position.
Okay. Just let me specify. Does everybody know who Madeleine Murray O'Hare is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't actually. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
We should say.
Yes, was. Okay, that's fine. Now, when her son converted, which there's a lot of controversy about that, did he actually convert? He was picked up by every Christian organization that you could shake a stick at just to get after his mom, because she was considered the most hated woman in America. Now, when it comes to Eric Hovind being picked up by atheist organizations, I'm sorry, I don't see the same level of, I don't want to say deceit, but I don't know. I just don't see that happening as far as, let's get Eric Hovind to be the spokesperson of atheism. I just don't see any need for it.
No. Atheists have enough spokespeople. They don't need another. They don't need another guy that looks and acts like Eric Hovind. There's already enough atheists like that. And Eric Hovind's got his own little niche.
Now.
You know what? I've said it before, and I've said it many times. I've known atheists, and I see them every day that have the same exact mindset as creationists. I don't see any difference between them. Give as much as facts as you want. They don't. The positions don't change.
It was really scary. It's really scary that nutter on Twitter, that atheist intelligence guy.
Did you read
sounds
his blog?
Exactly like a creationist.
Did you read his blog?
Yeah.
Atheist intelligence guy.
He started off by making an assertion that atheism was the rejection of theism because of there being no evidence or something like that, right? And I said, well, atheism is the rejection of theism. It has nothing to do with evidence. That would be much more called evidential agnosticism. But atheism is not the rejection of theism because there's no evidence. There's no definition like that. And he's just going off on me, calling me an idiot, blah blah. I'm like, dude, I'm just asking for a citation, man. I'm not even asserting my position on this. I just want to know, what is your citation for this? And he's like, well, it's my definition, and it's the definition everybody else uses. Oh, okay, well, no, I don't really know too many people that use that definition, but what's the citation? Argument from popularity? What are you saying here? And he said he was a physicist for 25 years, have 3 degrees, and yet I tried to ask him questions about mass and energy. It was bizarre. He thinks that mass is imparted by virtual particles, and he's not talking about like Hawking radiation, and he wasn't talking about in the early days of Big Bang, where there was, by which you had verticals popping in and out. There were photons actually, but he wasn't talking about any of that. He thinks that energy comes from virtual particles. And then he asked me, what do you know about physics? And I started explaining, well, a little bit. I mean, and as soon as I told him that I was, had a nuclear background, guess what he did? He blocked me.
Wow.
Because he's like, you don't know anything about physics. Blocks me for the very next thing. Doesn't even give me a chance to respond. And I'm like, okay.
I don't know if he's blocked.
Okay, on behalf of atheism, I apologize for that guy. Okay.
I don't know if he's blocked me yet. My last response to him was, what he asked me, what do I know about physics? And I said, I don't know that much, but I know that matter doesn't come from virtual particles.
And it's funny because anybody who seems to have a background in science, he blocks, I guess. I don't know, but it was just bizarre because he was just like a creationist in that regard. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm not even going toe to toe with you on physics because you probably do more about
even down to throwing thermodynamics around like a rag doll.
Then I read his blog and I was like, okay, this guy doesn't know physics. He said thermodynamics just proves God.
Atheist intelligence.
What in the actual fuck?
Is his blog a Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just found him. He's got a picture of himself. He's got a Vietnam veteran cap on.
Yeah, he's a veteran.
Okay.
Read.
Okay, there may be PTSD going on here, so let's have some charity.
All I can say is I'm glad I'm on antibiotics to fight whatever infection that is spreading through my brain as a result of reading that.
It was.
I love the atheist circle symbol thing. It's so fucking great to me.
Very last line of his.
Okay, we have good symbolism. Okay.
Very last line of his.
What? It's an A, and it's like we're not a religion, guys. Also, we wear this symbol as a necklace sometimes. Yeah. Like, that's what fucking kills me about it.
But we have awesome hats. Okay.
Hats.
Yeah. Whatever.
Just
look up atheist hats.
What's funny is I
don't know this.
Atheism itself, it cannot be a religion, but I can see people making like groups like American Atheism into a religion.
Oh yeah,
that's a fair argument.
It's kind of culty sometimes.
It's super culty.
I found an atheist hat that has "God is dead" clipped on it with safety pins. Is that what you're talking about?
The American Atheist, which is funny because you mentioned.
I was thinking of a spaghetti colander, but never mind.
Oh, there's that. Yeah.
That man here was one of the founders of.
Here's one.
Of American Atheist, but American Atheist, those people, the American atheists are the most cult-like atheists I've ever seen in my life, and it's bizarre because I tried to explain to them. Look, I've talked to Pam Whistle from the American Atheist multiple times. She's the editor-in-chief. She's the first person to say, "Oh no, don't use our webpage for anything philosophical. Don't go there looking for philosophical information. The only reason we define things the way we do is to get people to utilize the word atheism, so they join the organization. Because I asked her, like, well, that's
what David Silverman was saying, is that he runs atheism as a political identity. He doesn't run it as a philosophical identity.
Right.
Correct.
It's a political identity.
Yeah, exactly.
But basically, they're just trying to normalize atheism, so it's not such of a
by redefining it so that it covers more people.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, I don't think it's even that. I think
it
it's
is that,
inadvertently. Well, that may be the end result, but I think the intent was to normalize atheism so it's not such a stigmatic.
No, you have it backwards.
Word. So it's not such a cancerous word.
Right, but Brian, you have it
somebody says atheism. Oh my God.
But the reason why they want to change, they want to normalize it. The reason they want to have a more open definition is to normalize. That's the reason why on the American Facebook page, atheists, when I asked them, why don't you point out the fact that this is not always true? Why don't you point out the fact this is the definition you use, but not the only definition, because that's misleading? And her response was pretty forthright. Well, that we don't really care as long as people use the term atheist. The ends justify the means kind of thing. They don't care they're misleading people. Straight up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take your word for that, Steve. But I'm just going back to lectures about not lectures, but meetings and rallies where basically it's just getting the word atheist out there to where it's not such a trigger word. Somebody hears the word atheist, they think Satan.
Dude, around here,
just to normalize it.
I mean, dude, people have been trying to do that with pagan for some time as well, and be like,
well, they do.
Look, it's not a fucking satanic word too. But
no, what? But also
I think that with atheism, it's been a little bit more successful. Like the people, like when you hear atheist, at least in urban areas, nobody really bats an eye because people understand what the fuck you're talking about. When you say atheist out in the country, you still get a little bit of a response. But I think that
we still have work to do.
Yeah, and there's a similar response with pagan out there, but in the city, I get less of a response to it, but I still get a response to it sometimes.
Well, even Satanism is becoming. I was going to say, even Satanism is less of a trigger word now. It's
when I hear someone's a Satanist, I usually just go, "All right, you're being an edgelord."
No, well,
who's more persecuted, pagans, atheists, or agnostics? Let's compare persecution to.
Do we want to do that?
Privilege.
As I think pagans will win.
We'll be like intersectionality.
Just to be honest with you,
we're intersectional feminists now.
Yeah, I think so. Or would be intersectional philosophy.
I did no. Get out of my house.
What's the ontology of your intersectionality?
Oh no!
Oh yeah, let's go there.
No, if you wanted me to seriously answer that question, I'd say pagans. But
I gotta tell you, go into a Facebook group and tell you're agnostic and see what happens. Go ahead, Ocean. Have fun.
Oh yeah, but if you go out into everyday society and say you're an agnostic,
the next
you're not going to get shit the same way you're going to if you say you're a pagan.
Right, but in the groups, the next motherfucker that tells me, "Well, I'm not asking you about your knowledge, Steve. I'm just going to fucking reach through my screen."
Right. Okay. Fine.
It's not like you have any
if that's the biggest
Steve,
problem that you've got, Steve.
Yes. Yes. We know all agnostics matter, but all pagans matter as well. Okay?
Agnostics' lives matter.
Make a T-shirt. Let's sell that.
Me.
Hey, Steve, start making T-shirts. I'll buy it.
Yeah, why not? Well, it's no different than hearing that pagans worship Satan. What's the difference? I mean, it's the same kind of rhetoric.
It's not even that we get into that we worship Satan. You get into the thing. I've had Christians get into that it's justified for them to kill me because I'm a pagan.
Ocean, could you please join our groups and then introduce paganism to us? I just want to see
what groups.
Philosophical atheism insiders.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Why would you wish this upon me? Like, there's a thing like
teach us, just like Steve is doing. Just like Steve is doing.
They're getting better. I gotta admit, the group's getting better. They're rising up.
They are.
Well,
actually, yeah, I see it. There's a few holdouts. Okay, there are a few holdouts. I will admit.
I will admit that besides Mark, the one good conversation I had today, and Steve, I've not had an actual good conversation in that group yet.
Well, give it a few months because there are people that kind of go in and out of the groups that are actually philosophical minded-ish. You know what I mean?
Well, I I was surprised that people seem to like the argument from contingency, but at the same time, I still had a couple people bitch. I'm like, what the fuck are you bitching about?
I know.
Seriously.
Yeah, Steve. Actually, if you look at
speaking
Steve's
of
video,
that, Steve.
Hang on, Christopher. Keep interrupting Brian.
Well, no.
Sorry.
I'll be done in a minute. But I was going to say, if you look at Steve's video that he did in PAI, he got what are you at? Almost 900 views.
I have no idea.
800 views.
Really?
The last I saw.
Not bad.
That's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, that's quite
Is that good for your group? I have no idea. I have no reference.
Yeah, the contingency one is at 400.
The first one got 800 views.
So all I'm saying is, your first.
I mean, I'll give you 2,000 on my channel, but I'm not sure that.
Your first video that you did, talking about agnosticism, that was last Saturday or Friday. You did it, and I watched it Sunday. And I have to say that you got a lot of views on that, dude. Now, how many people actually watched it all the way through? That's another story. But anyway,
I got a lot of comments on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's based on the comments. You can tell who actually watched the video and who actually didn't.
Yeah, the ones that commented and just like,
yes.
Yeah,
I know. So Ocean, whenever you're ready, come on over, educate us on paganism.
How many people are in this group? Is this going to be like one of those things where I make a post and all of a sudden 30,000? No, it's not going to be. All right. Here's my thing about having debates like this or trying to educate fucking text trolls and shit. Whoa. I just saw Christina Blackfeather. The comments say that she came out of the broom closet in divorce court. That's intense. Okay, anyway, there's a story there. I want to know that story.
I want to know that story.
That's a fantastic. I want to know more. Anyway, so my thing with dealing with debates on Facebook, I don't bother debating on Facebook for very long anymore. And Steve has had some experience with this. That I'll exchange maybe 3 or 4 times, and then I give up. Because if you're debating in a text chat format, you have people that will get up, they'll walk away, they'll come back and whatever. And it takes about like 4 to 5 hours to work out over a Facebook text chat debate thing what it would take about 5 minutes in a conversation.
Sure, I get that.
And if you have a situation where you're like, hey, if you have atheists that are in there that are like, itching to deal with a fucking polytheist, you can invite them here onto Steve's channel. I'll happily have a conversation with any fucking one of them. But I don't do it on Facebook necessarily anymore in a debate setting. I'll be informative, but I won't fucking sit there and argue all day. Not anymore.
Sure.
I used to, but I won't fucking do it. And that's something Steve can do, and he's fucking good at it. But I just you got to be a certain kind of dedicated to fixing stupid, and I ain't that dedicated to fixing stupid.
No, that's fine. Well, my thing was, see, in our group, we do not, we deal with trolls right off the bat. Now, Steve has his definition.
No, you can be an honest interlocutor and still be five hours of stupid.
Okay,
there's still the thing is that most of the time when I've seen like giant debates on Facebook that are completely unproductive at all, it's usually to do with politics on 2 people that are very honest in their positions. They're just seeing fit to yell at each other for 4 or 5 days straight on a Facebook post.
Yes.
That's the thing with Facebook is that there's no face with it. You don't have like the eye to eye at all. Not necessarily. All of our cams are off, so we're not really having that here, with the exception of Steve. But at least we can hear each other's tone. We can hear each other's inflection. There's a certain amount of respect that you have when you're having an audio chat with somebody. And all of that kind of goes away on Facebook. You're dealing with a faceless avatar that you can just type at. And, you're as right as you want to be when you're doing that kind of engagement. You've got some background noise, my man.
Right. Yeah, right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's my machines. Well, I was going to say, that's what we're trying to do in the group is actually get face-to-face debates going in the group.
If you want to do that, I can do that.
Well, I was going to say start. Well, I mean, you don't have to. Just a suggestion. Just a very informative post or an essay on your position, your beliefs, and what is a pantheist or
polytheist.
I'm sorry, polytheist.
Not a goddamn pantheist.
Yeah.
You don't need a salt ocean with that.
Yeah, there's no panthers here. Just clearly stating your position, because I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what a polytheist is outside of people believing in multiple gods and demigods and all that. So, yeah, it's just an idea. You don't have to.
Well, but here's
it's the grab bag approach to spirituality.
If he does this though, here's what I don't like: people when they comment stupid shit like, "Where's your burden of proof? Where's your evidence?" It's like you're not even having a conversation at that point. Fuck off. And I just got done in another conversation.
I've gotten tired of that too.
Same thing where a person's like, "Well, all I'm saying is I don't believe you, and because I'm an atheist, blah blah." And I keep asking them, "Why would a theist give a fuck?" I don't understand this. If I was a theist and somebody said, "Well, I don't believe you," I'd be like, "Fuck off! Why don't I give a shit? You believe me or not? How does that affect my life?" I don't see why atheists are so adamant not to have a burden of proof and so adamant just to say, "Well, I don't believe you." Okay, so what? I don't believe you if you claim one way or another. I don't give a fuck if you believe me or not. It makes no difference in my life.
Can I fill in a little bit on that, Steve? Is that as a polytheist, I'm not an evangelical. I don't care if you agree with me.
Right.
I really just don't give a shit.
Right.
What the thing that I give a shit about is whether or not you're being respectful to it and respectful to other people that hold the same position.
And that's one thing I was going through earlier. Also, was I was arguing that we need to have that mutual respect.
Ocean, have I ever dogged you for being a polytheist? Ever?
We've gone blow to blow on it a couple of times, but not. It's never been like dogging me on it. Like I've
never ever dogged you for being a polytheist, dude.
No, okay, all right. So what I mean by that is that you've never dogged me on it. Like I've never felt disrespected in the conversation. We've had discussions on it.
You're just an atheist and you don't know.
Gone like back and forth. Get out of my house.
Oh, there he goes.
Don't fucking shoot that. I saw that cannonball go across the bow. What are you fucking doing? I'll bring out shit on you, Steve. God damn it.
He walked into that one.
But no, we've had some conversations back and forth, but I've never felt disrespected having the conversation.
Well, I've never criticized.
Like I've gone through like my philosophical justifications for it before, and you've just kind of nodded your head and been like, "Yeah, it's Ocean, you're reasonable. Okay, cool. I have the Steve seal of approval."
Well, reasonable.
Go on with my fucking life.
Right, reasonable doesn't mean you have to agree with you.
Right.
I think
you view me as a rational person, I view you as a rational person, and we fucking move forward with it.
Would you be kind of weirded out if everybody kind of agreed with you?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like polytheists, when I'm hanging out with other polytheists, there's a lot of disagreement among us over like what the properties of the gods are, how they function, and all this other shit.
Why they just tell you? How come the gods don't tell you?
Get out of my house, Steve. So,
because they're a bunch of polytheistic gods, they're a bunch of assholes.
So let's assume that they fucking are, right? It's easily a couple liars in the group. But I see Cicero was kind of dealing with this in Nature of the Gods, and discussing that there are many different ideas on what the gods are, how they function, and all this kind of stuff. And either one of them is right or they're all wrong. So then he proceeds to go through and kind of make a discussion on what he thinks it is. But I think that if you're going to be discussing about polytheism, you do have to kind of recognize that. Brian, you got something on the tip of your tongue. I see it.
Well, I'm sorry. I was going to ask, I'm not being condescending or anything. Do you actually hold to the belief that these gods exist, or do you hold to the thought behind the gods?
I'm not a Jordan Peterson polytheist. No. So
there's no substrate.
That's what I call the symbolic polytheist, or the atheist polytheist, is that they're or the atheist pagan. If they're a polytheist, you're not an atheist, but you do get the atheist pagan. And I don't really have a problem with the atheist pagan, but I do kind of deride it a little bit by saying it's the Jordan Peterson polytheist. Because it's the same thing. I think that Jordan Peterson polytheists are better than Jordan Peterson in his monotheism interpretation of what he's doing. But so it's like a step up, but you're not like a polytheist yet. But no, I do actually believe in the gods. So
okay, yeah. That's fine.
Well, so did Euthyphro. So
say what?
Euthyphro.
So did Euthyphro? Yeah, but Euthyphro you're talking about the conversation between Euthyphro and Mr. Socrates. That was not a discussion of proving polytheism wrong. That's a conversation that wound up being moved into monotheism. It's crippling to monotheism, but when applied to polytheism, it's just a paradox. It doesn't actually create a giant quandary for polytheists. It's a conversation about piety and the god's actions and motivations. That's it.
Well, can I ask?
It's a chicken or egg conversation there, but with God, it becomes like a question to his very being.
Yeah, because God has sovereignty and aseity, and there can't be anything of value outside of God. So if something is
right, polytheists don't have that problem, so it doesn't affect us as much. Like Socrates was a polytheist and Euthyphro was a polytheist. It was a conversation between two polytheists, and one of them's pointing out a paradox. The end. It's an interesting conversation, but it doesn't kill the theistic aspect.
Gotcha.
Okay, so hey, Christopher's been sitting on something here. It's been when I've been sitting on it because when Steve brought up his argument from contingency, I wanted to bring up my one contention to it.
Oh yeah.
And then I've been sitting on that for like an hour.
What contention?
I'm gonna leave this
so
open.
there's only one thing that I disagreed on in the whole thing, and it was when you started to talk about the omni aspects of God, and you brought up the problem of evil, and I may have misunderstood. I don't know. So correct me if I'm wrong. But basically, when you said that a being with multiple omni traits would then mean that evil could not exist.
No, I know you're going this. I thought about that too. I should have rephrased it this way. It's the problem with the logical problem of evil is we posit all the different omnis, and evil exists. Those cannot be premises that all can be true at the same time.
Well, it can, because he can have all the omni.
How?
Well, the only one he can't have, the only one he I brought it up, is the only one that he can't have is omnibenevolence.
Well, that's the main one in the problem. Omnibenevolence, omnipotence, and omnipotent. Those are the three ones for the logical problem of evil.
Right. But what I was saying was that it actually doesn't matter about the multiple aspect of having multiple omnis doesn't matter. The only one that actually matters is benevolence.
Yeah, no, you have to have other things other than benevolence. You have to have the other two as well, or at least one of the other two. Agrippa's argument was originally with two, and then it got to three with the logical problem. But you're right. I threw in a bunch of omnis that didn't need to be there. That's true. I remember doing that. So you're all right. But you can still have evil, omnibenevolent, and still have evil. You can have what's called a theodicy that explains that. But the logical part comes in is when you throw in another omni.
Right.
Then it becomes a logically inconsistent system.
Right. When you throw it, really, it's when you throw it. The only time it actually becomes a thing is when you throw in omnipotence.
Omnipotence, no, omnipotent, because omnipotent means he has the ability to do something, right? So
right, omnipotent. That's what omnipotence is, not omnipresence. Omnipotence.
I thought omnipotent was all knowing.
No, that's omniscience.
Omniscient. You're right. Okay, so yeah. You're right. All powerful. Omniscient would be all knowing. You're right.
Right. So it really doesn't become a problem unless you have omnibenevolence and omnipotence.
Yeah, because if he's omnipotent,
if you have any of the other omnis, it doesn't make a difference.
Right. Well, they do add three philological problems of evil, but it's mostly the omnipotence and the omnibenevolent, because that means God knows what's wrong and has the power to well, see that's why you have to add omniscience too, because he knows what's wrong, he can't have evil, and he has the power to fix it. Those are the three things for the logical problem of evil.
Well, you don't need omniscience. But if he's omnibenevolent, he's all good. So by default, if he's all good, he already knows what's wrong. He doesn't need omniscience, and then all he needs is the power to stop it.
Sure. I mean,
omnipotence. So omniscience is never needed.
The original problem wasn't it? Was it Agrippa? Who had the original problem? It was a very original problem of evil.
I can't remember the original. The one that I always default to is the Epicurean trilemma.
Okay, Epicurean trilemma. Okay, well, Epicurus. Yeah, it was Epicurus. So Epicurus he had two of the omnis in his argument.
Right.
The logical problem of evil has three in it, but I see what you're saying. You only need two to make it actually work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And then, yeah, the only other thing that I brought up was when you actually talk about the divine mover, is just because I'm a pre-Socratic nut and I love that. I just brought up Xenophanes, and Xenophanes would actually argue that if since his God is omnipotent, there would be no need for him to move. Period. No need for motion.
But how would the motion start then?
Because he's omnipotent. He can just do it with his mind.
Well, but yeah, but he's the prime mover though in that case.
But he doesn't move. The thing is the
prime mover argument. It doesn't say God moved and everything.
Well, it's actually that's not entirely true. It's because some Greeks actually did say that he actually did move.
Fair enough. Okay, but
part of Xenophanes' thing was that he hated the anthropomorphism of deities.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but the modern Christians don't posit as a prime mover God actually physically moved. They don't anthropomorphize him that.
Well, they do because they say he spoke.
Well, he didn't move.
In the beginning, he said, "Let there be light." Speaking requires movement.
Okay, well, but that motion, like, they don't think he has a mouth.
Xenophanes would say that it's even blasphemous to say that he would talk because he could just do it with his mind.
Yeah, see, the whole anthropomorphizing thing is weird to me.
Oh, I agree. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to just bring up.
Sure.
But yeah, that was the only thing I was thinking.
Theist you talk to, whether you talk to a Greek theist or, or modern theist or whatever types of theists you talk to, this one has a little different approach. Greek.
Are you guys all on the West Coast?
Yeah.
No,
I'm an East Coaster.
I'm in the Midwest.
Say that again.
I'm East Coast as fuck. I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah. Why do you guys want to call it a night? Because I'm gonna go for a walk.
I'm more East Coast than all of you.
I mean, I'm actually
that's right. You're from Canada.
So, Ocean, you're a Norse pagan?
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I legitimately think that's actually really cool because that's the paganism I explored, actually.
I don't care to keep
I'm a multi-traditionalist, but yeah, the heathenry is my home. Norse paganism.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've actually got the Eddas just sitting up there. I read them pretty regularly, actually. So
you should read the Saga of Grettir the Strong. You would probably enjoy it. Yep. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and you enjoyed it, I presume.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm just a big Norse saga and mythology person. So.
Wow, a couple people want me to keep this open. You guys gonna be in here for a while?
Sorry, I'm laughing my ass off. Somebody misquoted Napoleon Bonaparte yesterday in my group.
Oh.
God damn it.
I noted that one.
I'll keep it open for another, I don't know. We'll see in 15 minutes if people want to continue.
Okay.
I'm going to be...
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
Steve, if you want to go for a walk and bring Mr. Intelligent Design in here, and then leave...
If you bring Mr. Intelligent Design in here, I will turn my camera on and I will hang myself on YouTube.
It's only 3 o'clock this time. 3:45.
Did he didn't show for Non Sequitur show, did
he? No, he didn't. Piece of shit.
Well, at the tail end. He was there for, what, 45 minutes? He was creeping the Google Hangout chat?
Oh, good God.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I just did. I'm sorry.
You motherfucker.
I saw that. That was supposed to be stealthy. Sorry.
Is he at work right now? What's his timetable?
He's at 4 p.m. tomorrow. His time.
Okay.
Who is?
Mr. Intelligent Design.
Wait, he's coming on again?
No,
he just got added to.
I added, but he's not going to join.
No, he's not.
If
having said that, he's gonna show up.
Yeah, if he shows up, I'm kicking him, Steve.
No, you're not. You have
I've had enough. No, I probably won't. I'll use him to troll Brian.
Oh wait, you can snipe him, I guess.
Mr. ID is punishment.
Does sniping still work?
I imagine it does. It's not like Google to fix things.
You know what? Hegel makes more sense than Mr. ID. And I don't know what Hegel says.
You were able to translate him so profoundly.
Dude, I don't know how, and it scares me that I could. I really don't know how I was able to. I am convinced that there must, on some level, be part of me that still is that dumb that it makes sense.
Hey, Steve, remember that geocentrist guy that you interviewed a while back ago?
Robert Sanchez or the other guy, Rick Delano?
The first guy, Mr.
Nephilim Free.
No, Nephilim Free. No, his catchword was profound.
Yeah, Rick Delano.
Yes, is he ever going to come back on?
Yeah, I think so. He was having some health issues there for a while.
Better than the other guy. That guy had personality.
Well, they're both. They're both the producers of the movie, the principal, right?
Yeah,
they're both intricately related in the geocentrist movement. But I gotta admit, when Richard Carrier and I got to tag team Rick Delano, that was fun. I was like, yeah, Richard Carrier and I, we're just dogging at this guy. We're wrecking him.
Now, was this on your channel or is that the non-sequitur?
That was on the non-sequitur.
Brian, invite me to your group if you would.
Yeah, I'll add you. Are you? I'm friends with you on Facebook, I think.
I think so.
One thing I'm really wanting to do right now is I really want to talk with Arn Ra. Because I keep going. Yes. I've gone through numerous of his videos, and Brian's actually seen a
we're
seen an old video I did in response to him. And the reason I made a response is because he makes quite a few errors with his biblical history, especially representing the scholarship.
Yeah.
But yes, we're friends on Facebook, Brian.
Oh, okay, so I'll just go ahead and add you, and then whenever you want, you can make a post or.
Generally, I lurk and then troll people.
Oh, they're gonna
unless Steve is in there, and then I'll snipe from the sidelines when Steve is running around doing his thing.
I don't know what it is, but Ocean's highly entertained when I get to.
It's delicious.
Just atheists.
You're gonna.
Generally I enjoy. Hey, so Steve, I'll explain it. Generally, I enjoy when I see atheists froth at the mouth. I also enjoy it when I see Christians froth at the mouth. So when there's frothing at the mouth of either kind, and Steve is in the middle of it, it's there. Whenever Steve is like talking, someone's frothing at the mouth. So I follow his Twitter and his Facebook activities pretty closely, just because it's entertainment for me. Like I just sit down and I drink coffee and I watch Steve do his thing.
I do it well, don't I?
I do. It's fun.
I provide fodder for Steve now.
The difference is, unlike Darwin's, right? Darwin's is a lying piece of shit. Everything I say, I totally believe, and
the best kind of trolling is when you're honest about it. And that's I think that that's a rule that I go by as well. What's up?
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry. What is your first name again? Just your first name.
I'm not gonna say it on air, but I'll shoot you a message on Facebook.
Dipshit? Is it Dipshit?
Dipshit. Dipshit is my name.
Yeah. His parents were not very fond of him.
That's fine.
No, it was a kind of a weird situation.
They wanted to name him Dip or Shit.
Actually, the name that my parents were originally going to go with was Basil or Basil.
Huh.
Which would have been wildly different.
Originally, they wanted to go with Seth for me.
Right, I just sent you a message.
People are like, "Oh, look at Steve can piss people off." Yeah, I'm good at that actually. That's people haven't figured out. I've told them. I even say, "Look, Twitter is my dumping ground. Right? It's my dumpster fire where I'll go run arguments and I will just be what the fuck I want. I don't give a shit on Twitter. I never liked Twitter to begin with. I happen to like it a little bit more now, but this shit that you could find on Twitter. But when I was banned from Twitter, I had to go find my fix on Facebook. And so I got
Facebook was my fix for the longest time, and I recently, when it's come to the most of the debating, has mostly died. It was like I just get frustrated more than anything because people won't even admit my problem is when you show someone that they're wrong.
Yes.
And they won't admit they're wrong, and they will tell you you're an idiot and a fool. It frustrates me, and I'm just like, I am done,
dude. No, dude. That's what Ocean and I love, right? I mean, it's like they don't even know what they don't even know, and
I like watching it when other people do it, but when it's happening to me, I'm just like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't want to have a conversation with you anymore.
Do you remember one time when it was an after show and Aaron was in here, and you had a godless girl and realistic nihilist come in?
Yes.
And they started running photos argument from natural selection.
Yes. I do remember that because it triggered the fuck out of Aaron Ra.
Aaron got so triggered, and I after I wanted to go, Aaron, dude, they're not bullshitting you. This is actually photos argument. Who is an atheist,
right?
And a philosopher.
He was yelling at them so much. It's funny that like
bizarre because I was like, dude,
this is another thing that I think that this is part of the thing that I harp on, that atheists have gotten so far against Christianity that when a legitimate argument comes up that plays a little bit into the conversation of theism, like just a tad, like just maybe it pulls the rug out from under evolution a little bit, atheists freak the fuck out.
They give no
when
ground.
This shit happens. It's like they can't have a conversation. They become afraid of having an honest conversation about topics that are related to philosophy.
Well, that's what
is good.
It's blowback is what it is.
And that's what I keep noticing every time I watch a debate with Aaron Ra, and I've watched like 10 over the last 2 days now. And he always just explodes and loses his shit like right away.
Well, he blocked me on Twitter because I said something to him about the nature of the gods at one point.
He hasn't unblocked you yet?
Let me check actually.
But he got so triggered over that, and it's just one of those things. It's fine to admit.
Link me to his page, Steve, because he's not coming up. I can't find the man. So I presume that means that I'm still blocked.
No, it just means because the block should come up as block page.
Well, I can't find it. What is this? Is it RN_raw? Twitter.com/
at RN_raw. Yeah, I'll give it to you on Facebook.
Yeah, he's got me blocked.
Oh. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, he hasn't blocked me, but that's only just because I've only managed to gain his attention for the briefest of seconds, so
well, next time
he and I have gone to blows a couple of times. He wanted there was a conversation possibility about us going on the Non Sequitur show or some other show to discuss spiritual experiences. I thought that was going to be interesting.
That would be interesting.
He's had them.
Like you though.
I don't know. I get under his skin.
Well, do you know who I'm going to be hanging out with next month? I think we're going to plan a trip.
Richard Carrier.
Richard Carrier, yeah.
Richard, yeah, he's fairly accessible as a human being. He'll text when he's in a city. And he just sits at a bar.
Yeah, he's going to be in San Diego.
Hangs out and talks to people.
Headed down there maybe with somebody.
Cool.
Just don't say that you're a Bart Ehrman fan and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
No,
if you just shake his hands and suck his dick a little bit, he'll be fine. Don't
bring up Manil or PZ Myers.
Don't mention polyamory.
Polyamory, hedonism.
He'll bring it up.
Lawsuit.
But yeah.
Or emails. Don't mention those.
Or anybody's reviews of his book.
No, he's one that.
And then he'll be fine. But
he's like, come down.
So just let him do all the talking. You'll be good.
Right. If you sit down and shut up and you let him lecture you, he's a treasure. He's fantastic. But no, I actually I kid though. I do. I've been on a couple of shows with him. I've talked to him before. I like him. When he's talking about history, I enjoyed his conversation with S.J. Thomason. I think that's a really good conversation on morality. He brought up a few things that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, but I don't think I watched most of it, and I don't think S.J. addressed his questions at all.
No, she didn't. Just Carrier stomped.
Yeah, he did really well.
Yeah, and he was doing moral landscape, which it's not
really weird because
it's not great, but it was better than what SJ was doing.
Oh, I like SJ, I really do, but she is one of the worst theologians or worst apologists I've ever seen in my entire life.
She's not a theologian, first, and second, she's not. It's the thing that she's bad at is debating. That's what she's bad at. It's not. It's she knows a lot of things, but she's very very bad at it in the pressure of the moment, saying something that needs to, like saying the counter, coming up with a counter. Often she knows what the counter is, but in the moment of the debate, she doesn't bring it out.
It takes practice. It really does. Because we've been doing this for years. Okay, this is not a skill set that I came to the table with, and I don't think that you probably did either.
I mean, I did it in college. I did competitive debate in college, but that's
but does that prepare you?
I also just like arguing with people.
But does that prepare you what you ran into on the internet? Come on.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And
I think it would be
the thing that when I started running, I ran into a wall a little bit when I ran into the Pal Talkers a little bit. So, I was fairly good at the debate scene and around here until they showed up, and then I had to step up my game and I had to read a little bit more.
Do you know this?
And I liked them for that because it was like, oh, okay, you guys are teaching me something.
Oh yeah, do you know? Still to this day, I told you I was in the Discord not too long ago, and I saw Jack and Darwin's. Well, Darwin's left or he muted or deafened or whatever. But Jack was telling me he remembered like 3 years ago where he and I had a knockout, drag down fucking battle of just epic proportions, and neither one of us backed down. And he told me, Steve, he's like, you know what, I didn't agree with you, but my God, he's like, you at least stood your ground, and we had we went at it. You weren't a fucking pussy.
That's how he feels with me as well. And we had a similar conversation where it was like, I think the conversation was about falsifiability of God.
Mm-hmm.
And in recollection to the conversation, I think that he had the better point. But
it's Jack.
It's Jack.
Well, and Jack and I, we actually worked it out. Realistic Nihilist actually acted as a good middleman, and we were coming at it from different perspectives.
Oh, me and Jack didn't have that issue for very long. I actually wound up getting invited to his Skype group and all that shit. But like,
he appreciates a good argument.
He does, and that's what I like about him. We enjoy each other from that perspective.
He's never called me stupid, and Jack. If he thinks you're a dumbass, he's going to tell you.
He'll tell you, yeah,
straight up.
He'll tell you.
But I was really impressed because he's like, you're not a pussy, Steve, and I don't think he puts me at a black belt, but that's fine. I'm not a black belt, but he has a respect for me, and I really do appreciate that because
there's back and forth about whether or not I'm a black belt, which I find to be interesting. I don't really have an opinion on it, but I do. It's what some people consider me one.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a hell of an honor. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I feel great about it, but I don't know if I agree with it.
Blue,
but I feel good about it.
Blue or green? I don't remember what.
Blue what?
They put me in blue or green. I don't remember.
I can see them putting you as blue.
Is that higher?
Blue? Yeah, higher than green, I think.
It depends on what.
I don't
know how they rank their.
I just remember there was like you had like yellow belt, and then there was a bunch. Then I think I don't remember exactly what the delineation was between green and blue, but I could see them putting you as either one.
I think it's basically white, yellow, green, blue, brown, black.
Yeah, at which point I know they put Joe Sonseed as blue for a long time.
Yeah, well, blue's good. I'll take blue.
And yeah, Joe Sonseed is a fucking beast. He's really good at it.
But I think it also, like I said, it all depends on you're willing to stand up and have a good.
He improved though. Joe Sonseed initially wasn't good, but he got good quickly.
He practiced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all it is. I mean, we've heard the arguments. We know how to address many of them. You have to be at least knowledgeable of the topic to some degree, but you also have to be willing to change your position a little bit and give in. And I see a lot of people be very hard line, and they don't give an inch. And if somebody fucks up, you have to be willing to say, you know what, that's good. Like Chris earlier, he's like, well, I had some contentions, what you said. When I thought about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I'm not going to die on that hill because he's right, kind of thing. But I see people, they're so willing to die on a hill when they just want to admit, okay, yeah, it's a fair point. I was wrong. Fixed. Done. Move on. That's all there is to it. It happens to all of us. We all have. If you can't admit that you said something incorrect, or you probably could have worded something different, you can't learn. You can't get better. You're literally saying you're the best, and there's nothing for you to get better because you never make a mistake.
Which I think is a humble pie that SJ needs to actually eat, because like
hey, Kyle joined.
What's up, Kyle? But like
candy and dick tonight.
SJ could benefit from going through the rounders a little bit, because there are Christians that survive those environments, And I think that SJ with a little bit of practice could do it. She's very fast at talking. She's quick on her feet, but she doesn't. There's times where it's like there's a point that you could have used SJ, and I know you know that point, but you didn't use it then.
But she won't.
And you need to be able to do that. And with like you've got Christians like Jimmy Stevens and now Chihuahua.
Jimmy's really good.
And several other Christians, honestly, that are just like that are really good at it.
Yeah.
Like Max hangs out. I don't know what fucking name he's going by now, but like Catholic something.
Catholic fusionist.
Fusionist, right? What the fuck? But he's good as well, and he's a Christian.
I think I see him slipping a little bit with the whole Catholic thing because I think he's making a little bit arguments that I find to be fallacious.
I mean, that's because he's Catholic, but you get Jimmy Stevens and now Chihuahua. I'll still hold up as being really good Christian debaters.
Oh, Jimmy will annihilate somebody if they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
He is the best preceptor I've ever seen. Now, I've held my own against him many times, but you don't think he's like one of the best preceptors?
I think that he's one that the thing about Jimmy is that I know what he's doing, but I also think that he's honest enough of an interlocutor that I can debate with him honestly and actually just have a reasonable conversation with him, even though I know he's precepting.
Oh yeah, he's totally an honest guy, but I haven't heard from him in ages. By the way, Kyle wants to bring something to the table. By all means.
Okay, so are you ready to see absolute delusional bullshit at its greatest?
Uh-oh.
Mr. ID?
I'm going to peek out from above the table again and look around, come back underneath the table. Go for it. What's up?
What's up?
You need me to show it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, I don't mind. Hang on a sec.
Jesus.
What kind of torture is this?
You guys don't care about nudity, right?
Actually, I'm glad he did this because he proves a really good point in what he did here.
Okay. Before I show what he's going to show, I want to show. I got to show something real fast. It's like I said, you like boobs. Everybody likes boobs. God damn it!
Everybody likes boobs.
I like boobs.
I like boobs.
See, I like boobs.
First, I want to show you this. This guy showed this to him earlier. I actually I actually got invited to this group.
Ew.
Oh boy.
The blood of age urine therapy. Oh, all right.
I haven't decided whether I want to join.
I warned you that this would happen, Steve. If you kept going, you would go over the edge.
It wasn't like
but this isn't just normal urine. This is aged.
Aged, yeah, no, seriously. This guy
aged urine.
I have to reel you in, Steve. I have to reel you in.
How aged are you talking?
A week to a year.
Yeah.
Oh. In what? In oak barrel?
I have not researched it yet.
God damn it! I regret coming into this hangout. Do you think
they charred on the inside?
Do you think they have urine sommeliers that sip it and go
in oak barrel?
Hints of Mountain Dew and Pepsi.
A little apple, little.
Maybe some hard cider, but damn.
Oh God, I haven't decided on that one. Anyway, so this is what he wants to talk about. Kyle, go ahead.
Okay, so our the village idiot, the Blanco
Brian,
Indian,
what the fuck?
has posted a sort of a I don't know what he's trying to attempt to do here, but I posted a poll before we did the last Tim O'Neill episode, and in it we asked, do you think Jesus existed? So what he did here was create a poll that says what people see, and if you look at that, clearly the yeses won it, right?
The first poll?
Yes.
No, the nose one.
Thank you. Okay, so he's highlighted that that yes, he does. He did exist. So what he's saying is that what people see when they see this poll is that they all voted no, right? He's saying they vote yes. Now what he's doing is he's comparing this to, if you look on the right, when he sees this question, he's saying it's the same as us asking if the Earth is
such a
round.
false analogy.
Right now,
he does.
I love this analogy.
I love me some history, and I think that Jesus existed. I don't think that's a comparable thing.
I don't either.
It's not a comparable thing.
Jesus
it's not.
In some way.
And there's nothing worse than watching a little weasel think that he's created some fantastically hilarious meme.
Well, he's a troll.
Who is this again?
Yeah, who is this guy?
He's part of the White Engine, the Blanco.
White Engine did this?
Yeah, he's a racist.
Oh,
God, are you fucking kidding me?
No.
I thought he was cool, just messing around.
I thought he was chilling out lately.
Nah, he's hardcore trolling.
God damn it!
He's the worst. He's literally the worst.
He's so bad. He's so bad.
Is this the only thing he does? This meme here?
This is the White Engine. The White Engine this is him summed up in a nutshell. You could be in a room of people having a conversation. Like, let's take Steve and I. I could be like, the sky sure was a pretty shade of blue today. And he would say, blue to who?
Is that objectively true?
Or prove that extraordinary claim.
Oh my God. Okay, that sounds exactly like me when I was a solipsist.
Okay, you're fired.
I'm not that way anymore, Kyle.
It doesn't matter. The fact that you were that way is enough to fire you.
But
we need help with Mr. Intelligent Design. Don't fire him quite yet.
But Engine, other people have told him, even people in his own group have told him exactly what we've told him. Literally, people from every religion have told him exactly the same thing. He doesn't want to change. But it's the same thing like we were saying, mentioned on SJ. We've given SJ advice. She doesn't want to take it. What do you do?
Oh, that's
not the best part. I've given White Engine.
SJ had an interview with him.
Let me give you
Blanco Indian, by the way, on Twitter. I've had this conversation with him multiple times where it's like, dude, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You're doing damage to your position, and it's bad. And sometimes I see him and he argues well. But it's like it's nowhere near as common as when he's just like unloading at his toes.
Oh,
like it's not good.
Real quick,
you want to hear the best part?
Yeah. One second. But then he'll dive into, oh well, you know what? I have autism or I have ADD or whatever the fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
I can't stand.
You should still be able to retain the information that what you're doing is harmful to yourself.
It's ridiculous. But anyways, go ahead, Kyle.
Okay, so let me read what I'm trying to find it here. What the lovely bitch that is Eve
Canadian?
Yeah, wrote about you and I. Okay, so she says,
"Oh, please.
Anti-theism is an evil ideology. Flat earthism seems like harmless kookery. Point number 2, non sequitur people are very bad people, even for anti-theists. Listen here, you dumb bitch. Fuck you.
Who is this person again?
Eve.
Some cunt on Twitter.
Okay, look.
It's yeah, she's mainly on Twitter. There's a couple of things on YouTube that she's done, but she's writing. She's not reading it.
She'll be in chat sometimes.
I had somebody on Facebook quote to me Eve Canadian today, and I tried to explain to them how dishonest this person was. But the most ridiculous part is there's one thing Eve and I do agree upon, and that's the whole atheist agnostic thing. But she was using one of her blogs as evidence against me, and I was like, "Do you understand her blog's actually agreeing with me?" But she is a ridiculous person. She's the most.
She's dumb as a rock. She's dumb as a rock.
She claims to have a PhD in philosophy. She claims to be.
Bullshit. Okay, I have a PhD in nuclear fission too.
Listen, she claims to have a PhD in philosophy. That she teaches philosophy, and I've never seen somebody so inept in my entire life in philosophy because she makes the most basic mistakes. She makes the worst arguments I've ever seen, and she's the queen of straw man. She will and it's not just me. Go do a poll. I guarantee it. If you're on Twitter and you've engaged with her, she's straw manned you before.
Toasters have better philosophies than she does.
I've had some bad engagements with her, and I've had some positive engagements with her. But
we don't care about the positive ones.
Do you think she has a PhD?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
She comes off as too uninformed to have a PhD in philosophy,
and that's what I keep telling people. But I don't have a PhD in it, so. But I'm like, well, if she's a PhD, she makes a hell of a lot of mistakes. I don't get that.
Steve is slowly disappearing.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I see that.
I'm trying to.
Hey, Steve. Have you
Steve,
tried? Oh, go ahead.
Do you want to know the trick to that?
Don't wear a green shirt.
No, that's not it. You want to be. You want to first.
That can help,
yeah,
though.
wearing a shirt that's distinct from your background is helpful when you're trying to key out a color.
Yeah.
But when you should have it further behind you.
I know that I can't for logistical reasons.
Did you just say for religious reasons?
Yes. It's an agnostic.
Steve has a secret religion.
It's an agnostic thing.
It's an agnostic.
The religion of Steve. Everybody in my group called it. They knew.
If it gets too far away, he can't be neutral on the issue.
Belief wall separation, right?
He can't believe in it.
I was going to suggest a blue screen maybe have been the problem, but I guess not.
No, it's got to do with chefs. If anything, if you can't get
both colors,
it's both colors.
From it, you need like a soft light box.
He's got both colors.
Yeah, it's just the way I have it set up right now. It's no big deal.
Can we get back to the bitch and leave Steve's green screen out of this?
The bitch.
Now that he's just a floating head in space right now.
So
Kyle's got some strong feelings today.
She's saying that
I hate that cunt.
She's saying that nobody likes her except for SJ.
Wow.
Yeah, she's not very nice in chat.
So basically, she's saying that all non sequitur people are anti-theist and not good people.
Yeah, well, what all people is she talking about? There's 2 of us, 3 of us.
I think she means the people watching.
No, she says, well, maybe.
How would she ever come to that
A lot
conclusion?
of people roll in a couple of people with you guys. Like they've rolled in Inane Dragon with you. They've rolled in Casey.
Inane Dragon came on one time.
Yeah, I've seen somebody accuse Inane Dragon of being like part of the non sequitur crew, and
a crew. Like we roll deep everywhere we go.
Casey with
rolled it up with a homies.
She's the girlfriend of fucking Godless Engineer.
She is part of the crew.
Yeah. Okay. They roll her in sometimes. Sometimes not just you two.
Yeah.
All right. She's co-hosted, right? So then there you go. But there's some other guests. Usually it's a guest that's like clearly that they just roll in as being like part of the plan of non sequitur show or something like that.
Let me dispel this rumor, okay? There is no crew. We do a show that half of the people are going to agree with, the other half aren't going to agree with. Even Steve and I disagree more than we agree. We're against each other more than sometimes more our guests are. We don't agree on very much either. The point of the matter is you're able to come and have a conversation and be mature about it. And saying that, the non sequitur people are very bad people. Do you know who that sounds like? Sounds just like something Trump would say. They're very bad people. They're anti-theists. Grow up.
What is she?
I mean, it's complete nuts. Like because now that I've been on a non sequitur show, and people call me have called me an anti-theist and a theist and a bunch of other crap, and yet I'm just like my best friend in the whole world that I've known for years. No, you bitch.
Accurate.
No, it's my best friend in the whole world. He's a chaplain. It's like
he's a room. Oh, that's chapel. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think Eve's pissed off that the takedown we had of Red Pill Religion, we left no bodies unburned. I mean, we destroyed them. I'm sorry, but Dean got eviscerated. He looked awful. And even his own people were like, have been telling him, Dean, you just need to stop this shit. And I talked to a lot of them behind the scenes. They don't want Dean around. In fact, they prefer the Red Pill Religion channel when he's not part of it because they're sick of his bullshit and his diatribe. So we have made a difference.
When he's on, they go from the 12 viewers to 9. So that's nobody wants that.
Max just spews hate.
Yeah, but you know that they're growing much faster than the non sequitur show, right?
Yeah, look at their numbers.
I heard that.
Yeah, look at the numbers. They have 3 in a week or something. That's impressive.
I guess if you go percentage wise, when you jump from 9 to 12, that is a pretty astronomical jump. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's taken them 4 years to do it.
Yeah, when you have 6 people watching, and then next day you have 12 people. That's 100% jump in viewership.
Yeah, you've doubled. We can't touch that. We cannot touch that.
Oh. That's Engine's math. Who is that? Who did that math? Somebody actually was making that claim.
I don't remember. I remember sending pictures of it.
He was talking about Jaren though.
No. Somebody from what you read Religion was saying that their numbers are doing better than non sequitur show.
Yeah, and they were citing a chart that clearly showed non sequitur doing better.
It's okay. That's how they deal with facts. They look at something and then go the complete opposite of what the facts are.
It may as well have said.
At least they're consistent.
There was a letter rating though. It was like the non sequitur show is like a C or a B minus, and they were like a C minus.
Yeah, sounds like
Kelly we're doing better.
Kelly and Conway and alternative facts.
Well, yeah, they're just doing the grading system on the opposite, the descending scale. You know what I mean? That's that new age.
They just had it. They had it graphed upside down.
So C's are better than B's. Obviously.
So if you get an F, you're like a PhD.
Exactly. Which Dean is like a triple PhD in everything from Harvard and Yale.
He's like, man, I am doing great. I got F's across the board.
Yeah. Go Dean. So this is like
right, guys, I'm gonna be going to sleep.
A 7-hour stream.
I know I'm gonna be ending this in a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
3 hours, not been too bad. It's pretty good stream. We've talked about a lot. It's been great tonight.
Yeah, this was fun. It wasn't about Halloween. Usually we do Halloween ghost stories, but whatever. People got a chance to come in and talk that we haven't had in before.
You had a pagan in the room. It counts.
Yes. Thank you for not doing ghost stories. This was much more entertaining.
I don't have any. All I have is a near-death experience and nothing to go with it.
I have one ghost story.
The next hangout we're going to be doing is with Brian, and we work on this, guys. But we want to have everybody come in with their best strong arguments for strong theism.
Best argument for strong theism?
Atheism.
Strong atheism. Sorry, strong atheism.
Okay.
I was about to say, I'll come in and do that, but never mind. That's not what you're talking about.
Give me atheist arguments.
That's okay. We need all the help we can get.
It doesn't have to be like globally, but I mean,
yeah.
Explain.
Me helping atheist Brian. What are you talking about?
Well, you can explain like divine hiddenness. Divine hiddenness is a good argument. People may not know.
No, I'll help atheists when their arguments suit me.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Kyle, you're an anti-theist. What's your best argument for hard atheism? I've never heard you make one.
The Bible.
That's
going to be like
that just covers one God.
Atheism.
The problem with the Bible is that it actually doesn't even cover Yahweh very well because we don't know where Yahweh came from.
Well, just on the surface level, that's the Madeline Murray O'Hare argument. Reading the Bible, you'll turn to atheism.
You're absolutely right. If you read it cover to cover and don't have a preacher in front of you selling it like a used car salesman, and you read all the horror in it, if you close the end of Revelations and you're like, I want to worship this God forever, then you're an idiot. And whatever happens.
I heard a story the other day, and I was listening to, I think it was an Eighth Experience. I don't remember. Yeah, it was an Eighth Experience. I was doing my walk, and I listened to different podcasts and stuff when I do my walks. And I heard a story that was from the Bible. And I've heard a story that I never knew was in the Bible. You know how people talk about that going, yeah, I was a Christian for years. I never knew it was in the Bible.
Yep.
Here's a story, and I want Christopher to verify this because I haven't even looked into it yet because I just now remembered it. I have never heard the story before. There's a story about a general who prayed that he would win a war, and he would sacrifice to Yahweh the first thing he saw when he got
Judges 19, I already know it.
Yeah, I know this one too.
Jephthah, Judges 19.
Exactly. Why is it I don't know what the fuck that was about? I never heard of that before.
Because just a little bit of human sacrifice in the Bible, you know.
Yeah, it's not a selling point.
But I'm not an idiot. I've been around. I've read most of the Bible.
It's a cautionary tale.
No, it's not even a cautionary tale. The book of Judges is basically the equivalent of biblical comedy. That's what it is. It's just full of
sacrifice is funny
because you're missing the irony that's going on through the whole thing. The hilarious irony in the ancient world is that this God is completely adamantly against human sacrifice, but accepts his human sacrifice because he made an oath. Yeah, and so the whole thing is basically poking fun at stupid oaths.
He knew. Okay, God is omnipotent, and he knew that was going to be going on, omniscient, and he knew it was going.
Well, they don't believe that he was. The ancient Israelites didn't always really even think that he was omniscient.
Did they not know the first thing he was going to see was his daughter?
They knew he was full of shit, Steve. They knew the whole thing was just a.
It was. I swear to you, I had no idea that story was in there. I feel like a complete.
But here's the. It's worse.
I'm in awe. Because you think you know something decently enough to where you've heard, okay, I may not be an expert on it, but I know a little bit about the topic. Never.
If I'm not mistaken, he did it though, didn't he? He did.
Yeah.
He actually.
He did. But in fundamentalism, the way they treat the story is he didn't actually sacrifice his daughter.
Right.
Basically, they turn it around and say, well, she just stayed a virgin her whole life.
Well,
and
I've
about.
Heard... Oh,
yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, when you read on, it says she went to bewail her virginity. It doesn't make sense because if she's going to be sacrificed, why would she care about her virginity for 2 or 3 months? So that's how.
Well, because the point of a woman's life at that point was to squeeze one out.
And I heard from Reformed Christian apologist, he spins it as I was listening to one of his streams a couple weeks ago, and he spins it as she just served out the rest of her life in servitude at the temple. And when the guy said, but yeah, he says that her life was basically over. He goes, well, yes, because they considered when you go and you serve your life at the temple, your life is pretty much over.
What passage?
Like, okay, so the problem is that argument holds no water because the temple didn't exist yet.
Exactly, and it doesn't. That sounds so Catholic, doesn't it?
What passage says he actually killed his daughter? Then what? If I can look it up later.
Well, it says he performed what he vowed to do.
Ah.
It doesn't specifically spell it out.
It means that he killed her.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So one person I think that you guys should
I heard
really
that
try and get.
Oh, hang on one second, because it really bothered me that when I heard that story, because as a dad, I was like, holy fuck, and especially because I didn't know in the Bible, that impacted me a lot when I was.
Like, you don't know everything. Really you don't know everything, and you learn something new every day.
Exactly. Non-Stamp Collector had an awesome cartoon about that.
Yeah, I think I heard of it.
It blew my mind.
What were you gonna say, Chris?
So I remember when I first read that one. It was an interesting day.
That's what. So the Book of Judges is one that Brian and we're going to probably spend a long time on because there's so much to go over in that. But what I was going to say is that one person that I think would be awesome for you guys to get on a non sequitur show, just for like a discussion or something, would be Dr. Peter Enns.
Oh, I know that name.
He honestly,
is it ENS?
What? Yeah, ENNS.
Yeah.
You can look him up on his website and everything.
I just looked him up.
He's a Christian theologian, but he's a PhD Old Testament historian. He'll be the first to tell you that evolution is a thing. That the Old Testament is full of just a bunch of myths and stories and made up tales.
I've emailed him, and he wrote me back and said that he was working on a paper, and because it was actually Inspiring Philosophy that gave me his email address.
Okay.
And he was busy with some kind of paper or something that he was writing, but he said he would get back to me.
Well, that'd be awesome. Yeah, he's from BioLogos.
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked with Francis Collins. Yeah, I remember him now.
Yeah. I absolutely love him. A really good thing for me, and it's going back to a different topic we were discussing earlier. What I talked about, learning how to debate and everything. One thing that was really made it really good for me is that my mom has a degree in philosophy. I grew up debating people my whole life.
You were that, just like we pointed out a minute ago. You were the white engine, the rainbow engine. That's what we'll call you.
Okay, but yeah, it's basically that's how I became aware of Peter Enns, is because my parents love Peter Enns and they love C.S. Lewis and a bunch of others. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw him out there.
C.S. Lewis.
I love C.S. Lewis.
And just real quickly, this is a different topic, but if you ever do another Jesus mythicist show, you need to get Robert Price on your show.
Yeah, I'd like to get Robert Price. That would be awesome.
Robert Price would be interesting.
I am dying to have a conversation with Robert Price. Robert Price, I absolutely love because he's one of the most respectful guys I've ever seen in conversations and outside conversations. He's just a nice bloke.
Do you know who I'm excited about? Ole Anthony.
Ooh.
Who's that?
The one that took down
Robert Tilton.
Yeah.
The farting preacher.
You guys ever seen that video? Those videos?
Yes,
no.
I've been around the Bible Reloaded long enough that I couldn't have missed it.
He was literally the biggest televangelist of all time. Like,
yep,
he made it to the top, and he's going back to that mountain. He says,
"Yeah, he is. He's back actually on TV." So,
Peter Popoff made a comeback. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
So I was like, you know what? It would be really cool to hear what Ole Anthony does. Is he runs a watchdog group that monitors all of these televangelists, and he's actually a Christian himself.
Yes. Is he a real old guy?
Yeah, he's very old, but he's
Okay,
actually
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's actually a Christian himself, and I just reached out to him and I said, look, this is what I'm thinking. It would be really cool to have you come and talk, because he's been in the middle of the Benny Hinn investigation and Robert Tilton, and he wrote me back like the next day and he said, I'd absolutely love that. Let's do it. So he'll be on in 2 weeks. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, I'm bouncing up and down.
I don't understand how anybody could fall for Peter Popoff still after he was so thoroughly fucking destroyed back.
Hasn't our show shown you that people can fall for everything?
The only thing I can draw as a conclusion is that religion makes people stupid.
Yes. Okay. Well, listen.
More often than not.
Right. James Randi.
I'm about to come after you, buddy.
I said more often than not.
Well, James Randi said this. He said people would write to him thanking him for exposing whoever he exposed, and then they would say they were going to give their money to somebody else that was in the same. It's like people want to be suckered. I don't get it.
And I feel like our show has gone a long way in showing that. Like, David, when you say you can't believe these things, we literally show you every night how that's possible.
And
I
also
understand. Like, I know.
Well, you got to also remember.
I said
Peter Popoff.
Stupid more often than not. I'll consider Ocean one of the nots, though.
But you got to remember, Peter Popoff got busted back in like the 80s or something like that. So it's been a long time. People, the millennials, they don't remember.
Take exception to that,
right? They don't. I remember back in the day telling people this guy was full of shit. Way back when, I must have been, I don't know, what was I, like 17 or 18? I don't fucking know. I was a kid, but I remember this is complete bullshit. And they're like, "Oh, Steve, you're going to burn in hell." Oh, Steve, this is a
you are
man of God. And I'm like, no, he's not. This is a total, I back then I knew it was a total fucking scam.
The best video on the internet is the Benny Hinn "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" remix.
Oh, yeah, I've seen.
Oh God.
Oh, it's awesome.
No, when he's got lightning coming out of his hands and he's electrocuting his audience.
That's brilliant.
That's Robert Tilton.
Yeah, that was
is that him? Okay.
Yeah, that was. I remember that one.
I you gotta love the white suits though. The gray hair and the white suits.
Yep. There's so many talented people on the internet, like on YouTube, that have taken some of the like a greatest hits collection of these televangelists and what they say. And if you go and you watch these things, you will be amazed at just how ridiculous. So like there was one this one preacher, and I believe it was Creflo Dollar maybe, but he was having people put the money on the altar, like just the dollar bills on the steps of the altar, and he took his jacket off and literally moonwalked across the dollars that were up on the altar, saying that
was sick.
Yeah, saying that he was anointing the money. He was anointing the money as he moonwalked. I mean, it's just bizarre. Like, these are adults.
I will agree with Kyle on that. All that bullshit, I don't believe it at all. I believe it's bullshit. I believe it's absolute crap. Those people need to just go to jail for the rest of their lives and just be done with them. I have no compunction to get rid of them out of society. I think they're disgusting. I think they're vile. Like they prey on people.
3 jets, Steve. The guy has 3 jets.
Gulfstream.
That he asked the congregation to pay for. Because why? Because God told him that he needed to get to his places faster and spread the gospel faster.
With no
I'm completely on board with Steve. So I still remember the Ted Haggard thing. I was really young for that, but I was only like 8 years old when that scandal broke loose.
Yeah.
And even at 8 years old, when I would see Ted Haggard, I was like, "Mom, this guy is like nuts."
They all fall. Like they can't learn from each other. Every single one of them
I mean, doesn't
that falls
pretty much all religion.
Honestly, the only one that's managed to escape the fall is Pat Robertson.
I don't know how he's dead.
But he's so loony that nobody takes him seriously, and most people think he died like 6 years ago.
I think he
they
did.
just put him in front of a camera and he
Pat
does
Robertson
his senile
is still
old man
alive.
thing.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Life.
They keep dipping him in formaldehyde.
Jimmy Swaggart was
what about
my
Kenneth
aunt.
Copeland?
My aunt loved Jimmy Swaggart. Thought he was
He's
the
the
greatest
devil.
thing in sliced bread. Jimmy Swaggart got busted with a hooker 2 miles from my house.
Twice he did this.
I don't know the second time, but the first time he got busted, literally.
Let's not forget Jim Baker.
I could walk from my house to where he actually got the bridge where he got pulled, busted at. There's 2 miles exactly from my house.
Yeah, but Steve had a good point just a second ago. The guy is back. Jim Baker is
Christy's
back on
here.
TV. Robert Tilton is back on TV. All of these guys return to TV and act like nothing happened, and their audiences
religion operates
completely forgets them. But you know why though? It's that caveat: we should forgive them and turn the other cheek, or they've learned their lesson.
Degrees of gullibility.
They're reformed.
But yeah, there's a sucker born every minute. Don't forget, Kenneth Copeland has been untouched so far, right?
No, he fell in the that primetime exclusive for that what's her face went undercover or something like that, and there's video of him like she approaches him after the church service and says she asked him about the Jets actually, and
right, but he hasn't been caught in a scandal. He's still
no, not in a sex scandal, but the money thing I think is enough to make people question because he had that $6 million home that he had the 3 jets. I mean, people look at that and say, you're a pastor, you're supposed to be
modest,
right? Like the Pope,
humble,
and
like the Pope,
not Ratzinger, with the red Prada shoes, the Pope we have currently, who is. But I have to admit, if I was going to be the Pope, I would think I would install some red Prada shoes too. I'm okay with that actually.
And covering up for
Christy's here, by the way.
Hi,
Christy.
Hi, Christy. Hey, by the way, Christy here. Wait, check this out, guys. This is fucking hilarious.
I see wings. Are those angel wings?
Read that, Kyle.
No sane person thinks burning someone is moral. Hence, we have an absolute standard.
Yeah, read Florida's line that he said above it.
Oh wow!
Guess what she believes her God will do to atheists. That's brilliant.
You know what though? I have to admit, I have to. My hat's off to SJ for answering it that way. Yeah. Most wouldn't.
No, yeah, well.
That's ironic though. Does she believe in an actual hell?
Yeah, I think she does. Okay. So that's weird. So is she saying that her number one is that her God is not moral, or that she is not sane?
Or that
either
we
or.
cannot hold God. We cannot.
Yeah, she said God's not a person.
So he can break the rules, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but she says God gave Christopher Hitchens cancer.
But she's not a sane person. If she thinks God burning people is moral, then she's saying she's not a sane person.
But I have to admit, I like this answer. Like that's an honest answer.
Bizarre. I don't think she thinks things through very well.
No. It doesn't look good for like on the theist side, but she's right. No sane person would think that burning someone for eternity is moral.
Well, I didn't think she was wrong. I didn't think she was wrong.
It depends on how you define sane.
Well, don't do that. Don't do that.
What is share?
We all know what sane means.
Wait a minute, Christopher. What do you mean by define?
Well, what do you
mean by Christopher, Steve? What do you mean by Christopher?
Don't start, Steve.
I'm not gonna go down.
We're all gonna stare at Christy. I'm putting her on the screen. Hi, Christy.
Hi, Christy.
She graces us with her presence,
but she won't speak to us.
She won't turn off the fan.
You're muted.
Unmute the mic, Christy.
Please tell me you're drunk.
You've done this before, Christy.
No, I'm not drunk.
Get drunk. What are you doing, girl? It's Halloween.
You cannot come on anything to do with Steve or non sequitur without being drunk.
Yeah, that is.
I've heard this.
Well, sobriety
I've
or
heard
naked?
this.
It's one of the both.
Managed to come onto a lot of Steve's stuff as sober, and I've regretted it every single time.
This is true.
I don't have pants on. There's
the fruit
that.
drives me to
Neither
drink.
do I.
Neither would. I don't have a
I don't
body
either.
right now. I haven't got
The first time I came
I
on,
know.
the first time I came on Steve's channel, I was sober and I got Mr. ID out of it.
Okay. By the way, phrasing on that, the phrasing on that was questionable. The first
It was.
time you came on my channel. Yeah.
Either way is good with me.
Yeah,
I didn't know you ran that kind of channel, Steve.
Do people wear pants anymore?
No.
Let's just be fair.
No.
It was on Steve's Pornhub channel.
Do you know how how like YouTube has sucked up my entire life? It's because I usually don't wear. This is a true story. I usually don't wear pants anytime I'm on the show. I actually walked out the door to go to the store the other day without my pants on, just because this has become second nature.
I don't disbelieve
that sounds like a Freudian slip.
I'm like the complete
Kyle, it needs to be a
opposite,
regular thing at the beginning of the non sequitur show. You need to announce whether or not you have pants on today.
It would be the same. It would be the same answer every stream.
Yeah, and just like for Ocean's benefit, the pants question.
I'll tell you a funny story, and I'm not going to tell you which episode it's on, but there is actually an episode where my dog like spazzes out, and I'm sitting in my boxer briefs doing the show, and I actually have to get up. And in like mid get up, I realized what I'd done, and I darted off the screen really fast. But it occurred to me, okay, everyone can see you now.
Yeah. By the way, Christy's drunk as fuck. If you guys haven't noticed.
I'm drinking
That's
coffee.
the reason why she decided to get on here.
Are you aware
Why are
that
you drinking
have
coffee?
A large butterfly.
You only drink coffee if you're drunk.
You know you have rings on, right?
Let me apologize for my male counterparts, Chrissy. This is what happens when boot enter the room. They just all can't.
She's a lesbian, so it doesn't do me any damn good or good.
It's a sausage fest in here. I had to come in.
Hey.
We can still enjoy the view, though. Why not?
Balance the force.
It's better looking than any of you farts.
Right.
Now there's two bad. Now there's two bad bitches in here.
You haven't seen me and Greg, Steve.
Yeah, me and her, right?
No.
Ocean and I have plans for you, Kyle.
We do indeed.
I'm totally down with that.
Is it just me, or does more and more of Steve just keep disappearing?
Oh yeah, he's slowly on the way out.
Remember that?
I told you I have a theory. Steve is Yahweh.
I know. I was saying that earlier, that Steve is God. And look, here's the proof. Not only is he in,
don't tell him that.
Not only is he in space, but now he's just a disembodied head and arms. He's literally Andros from Star
the
Fox.
Wizard of Oz.
Do you remember
Disembodied mind?
Stephen King's Thinner?
Good job on the Star Fox reference, though. I used to love Star Fox.
Dude, anyone who doesn't love Star Fox has a mental problem.
Do a barrel roll.
What do you mean by mental problem?
Oh.
Well, here's okay, Chris. Here's the best question for you. Ready? Voltron, lions or cars?
Lions.
What?
Lions.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
That freaking question right. You don't watch Voltron when they went from lions to cars, and I was like, "What the hell?" Am I
Never heard
watching
of Voltron.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the cars one.
Yeah, the cars was not the same. It was a shit after that.
What is Voltron? Is that like a cassette tape? One of those
It
things?
was a cartoon and toys.
Oh.
Let me explain to him Voltron.
All right, guys,
Sounds
we're
like
gonna
a
take
vacuum
off.
cleaner.
It's good talking with you guys. I'm out.
All right,
see you, Ocean.
Speaking of vacuum cleaners, bye, Ocean.
They're redoing it now. Voltron on I think on Netflix.
I said, speaking of vacuum cleaners, bye, Ocean.
Bye.
I'm concerned, Kyle.
Suction.
I am very concerned. No, I get it.
It was good.
It was good. Yes, but
Hey, Ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the group now. All we need is a drop of blood in your oath of loyalty, and you're good.
All I need is your hammer later.
I'm gonna.
Actually, Ocean, all I want is your beard, because that thing is majestic. I seriously wish I could grow a fucking beard like that, because I am German and Scandinavian by heritage. I need
So there's no excuse.
Top beard or the bottom beard?
Oh God.
Either.
There you go.
Bottom beard.
Preferably both.
There you go. That just kind of. That's not actually a thing, everyone.
That completely just segued into just a complete.
This has brought me off. I don't even know where we are anymore.
I don't want people Googling that because it probably won't be as pretty as what you're thinking.
No, there's bottom beard would be no.
You know what? I'm curious. I'm gonna do it.
I'm Googling it right now too. Actually, that's what's happening. Bottom beard. What do we have here?
I don't want to know.
Don't screen share.
It's actually.
Do I have to use incognito window to do this?
We're actually I'm getting a lot of like some gay imagery here.
Well, there's George Clooney and
That's not bad. Ooh.
So,
I'm not actually a George Clooney person.
I'm getting different ways to cut the beard.
Drake is on there. Right. Jake Gyllenhaal is on there.
Jake Gyllenhaal is.
Oh, there's there is Clooney. Look at that. I got a picture of.
There's some gnarly beards on here.
I don't know who this guy is.
Anyways, guys, have a good night.
I've seen a couple of neck beards.
Ocean's gonna go. I'm gonna go.
I want to ride them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for dropping.
Have a good night.
Better
what
late
have I done?
Coming back. Coming earlier next time. And the next hangout we'll be talking about evidences for atheism. So good arguments for atheism.
Let me know when that is, Steve. I want to crash that hangout.
I totally want to be there too.
We'll do. It'll be in the next couple of days.
All right, sounds good.